I need a large tail because I'm looking to store more casting organs, Penelope explains. Among other things. But I didn't like the idea of a tail that I had to drag everywhere. It's unappealingly crude, solution-wise. I nestle my face deeper into her chest, because it's soft and I'm tired and I expect she's about to talk more than enough for both of us. Penelope certainly values elegance in design, something that I think rubbed off on Margaret. I'm not sure I understand the concept, but I can't argue with the results. Plus, yeah, dragging a body part everywhere seems awful. So the idea I ultimately settled on was to turn things inside out. Literally. I've redesigned the spellcasting organs to be external. They're basically small flesh tentacles, and they'll layer the underside of the tail, being able to walk with me when I'm not using them for spells. And with proper counterweighting, I should be able to lift the entire tail off the ground while leaning forwards, letting me make full use of the entire set. I'll look a little silly with my body hunched over like a raptor, but I doubt appearances will be the first of my worries in any situation where I'll need to bring out the full scope of my casting prowess. I wrap some of my fleshy tentacles around my girlfriend's face, poking and prodding her to remind her how annoying they are. I know you don't like your physical tentacles, Vita, but they're a useful structure, Penelope chides. Mine will be much shorter and more numerous than yours, they're designed for precision flexibility, not physical manipulation. I'm really looking forward to finishing it. Though while I grow the basic structure I'm still finalizing the exact muscle-to-organ space ratio that I want. Considering how long it's going to be, being able to support my entire body weight with the tail would be a plus. Of course, at minimum, I want to make sure the tail has enough compressive strength to crush a human skull. That averages to a bit over 520 pounds force, so supporting my weight wouldn't be too far off anyway. Weird metric, but I understand. Skull crushing is an excellent power move. I briefly consider asking about where she got those numbers, but decide against it. It's cuddle time, after all. I shift my weight a little, squeeze my tendrils slightly tighter, and make a humming noise of acknowledgement. As for other alterations, I've played around with the idea of claws multiple times, but as much as I like the aesthetic they're just more trouble than they're worth. Non-retractable claws would simply be prone to getting in the way more than they would be helpful, while retractable claws are not an easy thing to design for the human hand structure. There's just not enough space in the first knuckle for such a thing, which leads to needing a dozen other concessions, and well, suffice to say it's not an appealing prospect. I still can't decide if I want to replace my skin with scales. I like the potential for giving myself an epidermis stronger than most armor, and could likely come up with an effective method of cooling even if I give up on sweat, but I like my skin. I've worked hard on making it the way it is. Soft, I mumble, causing Penelope to chuckle. Yes, exactly, she agrees. It really would be a shame to get rid of it, don't you think? I make another affirmative humming noise, happily squirming around a little. Penelope is very soft. She might honestly be even softer than Roscoe. Nah, that'd be crazy. She's close though. I make a few wordless grumbles but regretfully extract myself from the softness, taking the effort to physically look at her face. I think I'm growing physical versions of my soul structure by default, but that's not the way it has to be, I explain. I'm becoming Mistwatcher-like, but I think I could turn into something else, if I wanted to. The problem is that there's nothing I want to be. I don't get wanting to be a certain way, I guess. Penelope muses, stroking her fingers through my slowly regrowing hair. Do you have things you don't want to be? Well, yeah, I confirm. But it's like basically everything. I don't even want to be made of flesh. And what does that mean to you? Penelope asks. Define flesh. Huh? I ask. Define flesh, she repeats. What is flesh? What don't you like about it? Break your issues down into discrete elements. I sigh, trying to wrap my head around the problem of turning my constant daily discomfort into words understandable by someone who has no context for what I'd even be talking about. Even separating it into chunks like she wants is difficult. The experience of hating my body is just my default. How do I define that? When you're in prison, you have a cell. You're stuck in the cell. You can move around a bit, but you're always stuck. I lift my arm up, moving the core of my soul out of my belly and down my shoulder, feeling my true self strain against the cramped insides of my hand. Maybe you're not truly stuck. I can leave my cell whenever I want. But it's not something you can ever take back, and certain death waits on the other end. So you just have to put up with it. You just have to stay stuck for as long as it takes, trying not to think about how much better life would be if you weren't trapped. Are you trapped? Penelope asks softly. You can't move a jail cell, but your body is yours to control. Sure, but it controls wrong, I insist. I don't know how to describe this part. Flesh moves wrong. It has I don't know. Massachusetts gravity. Resistance. I feel like I'm a slug, crawling around with barely coordinated jerks of some slimy tube. And I have to feel this way all the time, yanking my soggy prison around from the inside, screaming at it to move right, to do what I want it to do. But half the time it has a mind of its own. I don't get to control when I'm tired or when I'm sweaty or when I'm aroused or when I'm itchy. I don't get to control my heartbeat or my bowels or my tears or my reflexes. It's like something else is driving half of me, all the time, and I hate it. Penelope hums, tapping her cheek. You don't think it would get annoying or dangerous to have to manually beat your own heart? The heart isn't like your lungs, Vita. You won't be alright if you just hold it for a while. No, that's not the point. I insist. I don't want a heart at all. I don't want this disgusting blob constantly twitching inside me. I feel it moving all the time and it just you. It's so gross. So you want a body that doesn't have internal organs, or at least one where you can't feel them? Penelope clarifies. As well as a body that doesn't have any particularly egregious autonomic responses like arousal or itchiness. Well yeah, I guess, I admit. It sounds a lot simpler when you put it that way. That's why I'm putting it that way, Penelope smiles. Now we can think about ways to accomplish that. You could make yourself a skeleton, could you not? That would solve most of those issues. Skeletons are very cool, I admit, thinking about it. But Margaret isn't exactly the best cuddler. Plus, the problem with being dead in general is that it makes me a lot weaker and more vulnerable. I'm not the biggest fan of muscles, but they make me much stronger than if I only had soul power to work with. Even worse, bodily destruction would kill me permanently if I was undead, lich or no. My soul would get smashed if my body does. True, Penelope agrees, nodding. You could make yourself an ozoid without much trouble. They won't shatter on death, will they? Probably not, I conclude, thinking about that. I do like the idea of just being a singular mass of the same substance. You want to be homogeneous, Penelope translates. A challenging prospect for a complex living being, but one we already know is possible. I don't know if I like the idea of being an ooze, though, I admit. If my body is that malleable, I think I'm going to continue struggling with the idea of what I am, what I look like. I won't know what to do with myself. It sounds depressing. Also, I definitely don't want anything to be able to get inside me. Unless I'm currently eating it. So being a liquid seems kind of terrible in that regard. So you want to be some sort of homogeneous mass, but you want to retain your shape, but you don't want internal organs, but you do want some sort of muscular system, but you don't want a heart, but you do want to be alive. That about sum it up. Yep. I confirm. Oh, I also still want to be able to enjoy cuddles. Naturally, Penelope chuckles. Well, let it never be said that my girlfriend lacks ambition. No, I'd probably let someone say that if they wanted to, I tell her honestly. I don't really care if someone thinks that about me. How about my body, though. Do you have any ideas? She laughs harder, squeezing me tightly for a moment. I can't say I have any immediate solution to that, no. I wouldn't say what you want is impossible, but I don't have any workable theories. Just a few ideas. The problem that immediately comes to mind is the fact that there's not really a substance I know of that can accomplish what you want. What you're describing, well, in essence, you want to be a solidified soul, don't you? You don't want a body, you want your real self to be the body. I raise my eyebrows, feeling somewhat stupid all of a sudden. Yeah, I mean, it seems really obvious now that you say it out loud. Again, that's why I'm saying it out loud, she answers smugly, booping my nose with a finger. You're clever, Vita, but you've never been the best at turning feelings into words. I don't know if my feelings matter in this case, I say glumly. Even if I could solidify my soul or whatever, the Mist Watcher will just eat me if I don't have a body. Perhaps, Penelope admits, nodding. But perhaps not. It depends on how you accomplish it. The very idea of a solidified soul is just that, an idea. It has no concrete properties yet. It might be an entire category of things, or it might be completely impossible. We'll just have to figure it out together. Or, perhaps, your absurd intuition will craft a solution for you. It's hard to say. I don't answer, because the more she talks about it the more the idea starts to roll around in my head, picking up the detritus of my various frustrations and giving them direction. Some kind of solid soul self. A body that's only just enough of a body to fool the Mist Watcher. I have no clue how such a thing would work, but I certainly like the idea. It just checks all the boxes. I'll definitely think about it, I nod absently, my mind still wandering around doing exactly that. Thanks, Penelope. Would now be a good time to talk about what I came here to talk about, then? Penelope asks half-jokingly. I grumble quietly, redistributing myself so I can continue using my girlfriend's softest bits as a pillow without muffling my voice. Fine, I allow. I'm picking up that I won't like it, though. Well, that depends, Penelope answers smoothly. How much do you like the idea of slaughtering dozens of people responsible for your torture and incarceration? Not all that much, actually, I sigh. Well then, she starts, then blinks with surprise. Wait, really? You're usually quite adorably revenge positive. Well yeah, and I grumble. Then I killed dozens of people responsible for my torture and incarceration. So why bother doing it a second time? I made it. I'm home. We're cuddling. I'm happy. At this point I just want the problem to go away. Penelope starts running her fingers through my hair again, frowning to herself. I feel her soul flit through a variety of intentions, first, of course, being the instinct to manipulate me into seeing things her way. She quashes it as she usually does, half with the conviction to not do that to me on principle, and half with the knowledge that she doesn't really need to manipulate me to get me to agree. Not that I think she'd manipulate me if she wouldn't get what she wanted otherwise, but I know she'd be a lot more tempted to. It's hard to describe what feeling someone's intentions from their soul is like. Back when I first started honing the ability, I was busy parsing through how every soul only has a minuscule fraction of itself devoted to a person's current thoughts and feelings, and at the time it was a very difficult part of the soul to detect. Penelope's feelings felt like a song, Nora's feelings felt like waves of pressure, Lynn's feelings felt like pulses of temperature. It all seemed so different, but the more I got used to it the more I figured out there's somewhat of a shared language between all of them. I just needed to learn to read it. I don't hear Penelope's thoughts as words, but the nuances of her emotions spread throughout her soul, touching on and resonating with ideas, memories, plans, associations, and dozens of other comprehensible and incomprehensible things in a vast web. I don't just feel the emotion of temptation, I feel a temptation that explicitly relates to her insecurities, her regrets, her habits, the pleasurable feeling she gets when giving into temptations, the many people she associates with this particular temptation, the superiority she feels compared to those people, the way her temptation relates to me, the way that associating the temptation with me disgusts her, the way it also excites her, and so on. It's entirely in the form of emotion and association, not conscious thought, but it's so complex and rich I can usually make reasonable assumptions about what thoughts lead to any given reaction. The better I know a person, the better I can interpret what each part of the web is and the more confident I can be in my conclusions. Penelope is definitely one of the people I know best, even considering how much she's changed in the years I've been away. After contemplating manipulation, she starts calculating the impact my removal from whatever her plan is would have on it and very quickly decides that I'm still needed. She then purposefully puts that thought aside, changing mental tracks off her usual rail to something that confused the shit out of me before I figured out what was going on. Right now she's actively trying to feel something, but she isn't succeeding, so I can only guess what it is. I have those guesses, of course. It's not the first time she's done this, and she always ends up disappointed when she inevitably fails. Then she switches tracks again, right back to manipulation, though this time, her goal is to manipulate me into feeling better, which is something she has significantly fewer moral qualms with. Of course, before she opens her mouth she's already succeeding. Most people are really, really confusing to me. They feel emotions that seem totally disconnected from what I'd expect, reacting to stimuli and forming associations that completely fly over my head. Penelope can be a little confusing at times, but relatively speaking she's remarkably straightforward, rarely acting without thinking like normal people do. It's nice, and I don't have any issue with her plotting out a conversation in advance in an attempt to steer me down whatever track ends up making me happier. I don't need her to empathize, to feel bad when I feel bad. I don't think it's a flaw that she can't. The way she cares is different, but I like it better. You said you were happy, Penelope mentioned softly. Is that true? I boop her on the nose with a tentacle. It definitely is right now, I murmur. She beams, inside and out, but presses forward with her plan. Yes, well, I meant in the general case. You've been away for a 10-day, and I hear you came back looking rather worn down. Yeah, I guess so, I admit. I really lost track of time out there. I don't like how easy it is for me to lose track of time. If not for Nora, I'd probably still be running around and killing everything I get close to. And that bothers you, Penelope prompts. I don't answer immediately, taking a moment to gather my thoughts while I feel Penelope start pulling in mana to cast something on me. I give her my own mana, freely and happily, relishing in the feeling of dancing within her soul before the spell completes and that part of me is removed from existence forever. Naturally, I keep my magic resistance off. Whatever she's doing, I trust her completely. There was a time in my life, I eventually start, where I would have been absolutely horrified by the amount of murder I've done now. I don't think I've ever been a good person, really. I've seen a lot of death. I've waited by and let death take people I knew when I could have tried to stop it. The first time I used my talent, I guess we know it's not really a talent now. But the first time I pulled a soul out of someone, I kind of freaked out, you know. But now it's just what I am. The Vita that thought she was human would be happy I'm no longer starving, but I don't think she would have wanted anything to do with me. Penelope casts another spell on me, and I feel the eyeball in my thigh start to itch, twitching around uncomfortably in its socket. Ah, she's finally getting around to removing it. I nuzzle her a little with the back of my head in silent thanks. Do you care what your past self thinks of you? Penelope asks. Not really, I admit. But do you ever feel like? I stop, frowning a little as I catch my words. There's no need to ask her, I know she's felt this way. You know that feeling where we look back at everything we've done and wonder why we don't regret more of it? It's that. Ah, Penelope almost whispers. That. But I can't bring myself to regret it because I don't know what I could have done better, I sigh. Instead it just makes me feel I don't know. Stupid, I guess. Like someone else in my position would be able to look back at my life and figure out all the ways I've screwed up, and I'm simply too dumb to see it. But it feels like my mistakes have all been in how I interact with people, and I just don't get people. Not even when I'm looking into their souls. Whenever I try to get them to do one thing, they end up diving for the other. Whenever I try to get them to understand something, they just dig their heels into the opposite. It's just I just can't. I'm no good at it. I'm only good at killing, so everything keeps coming back to that. Penelope sighs. You aren't stupid, Vita, she assures me. And you'd better make sure you believe that, because you know that's something I judge very harshly. You're just missing something most humans have. Same as me. I don't think you need it, I tell her. The feeling is mutual, she responds. But neither of us agree with the other, I continue. No, she confirms softly. I suppose not. The two of us hold each other in silence, soaking in that bittersweet acknowledgement for a moment. Remember our little mantra from 2 years ago? Penelope asks eventually. Not psychopaths. I remember. It's getting increasingly difficult for me to deny that I am one, she admits. Even with Nugas, I'm merely disgusted at myself for violating my principles, not out of any care for the unimaginable amounts of pain I put a living person through. I spent so long experimenting on her I have to manually remind myself that Nugas even is a person. I honestly never expected her to turn out as one. It's good you have principles, I point out. Only tautologically, she answers. It is good to possess my principles, according to my principles. I'll admit there's a certain satisfaction in upholding them properly, but it's an intellectual satisfaction. Like successfully solving a puzzle. I thought the way I felt for you was proof that I wasn't broken. But it's still just you. If anything, having you has made my tendencies towards everyone else even worse. Even the way you care about me is a little weird, I inform her absently. It's pretty different from how other people love. Hey, it's okay. I promise her, hurriedly reaching up to grab her cheeks. It's good. I like the way you like me. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to worry you. It's fine, Vita, Penelope lies. I don't even know why I was surprised, really. Ugh, and here I was planning to try to cheer you up. I know, I tell her. That was when your plan succeeded. She smiles softly, calming down at my words. I think I even understand why. Pride, triumph, conquest, victory, these are things that make Penelope happy. I wish I could make this world one that you could live in without any problems, Penelope tells me. But unfortunately, I need your help for that. And I fear that even if we sit here and do nothing, the Inquisition will be coming for you sooner rather than later. I sigh, nodding. I'm not going to kill them if they don't attack me first, I tell her. And I want to give them the opportunity to back off and leave me be. I don't know how to make it work, but I have to at least try. I don't even know how to make that work, Vita, Penelope says sadly. I'd tell you how if I could. So that's it, then? I ask. We just prepare for war. We prepare for slaughter, she corrects me. When they come for you, I want you to fight a battle of attrition. Keep them occupied for as long as you can, especially the High Templars. Of course, dead absolutely counts as occupied. Braum and Kasha are still out of the city and will likely stay that way, which means you should prepare for Galdra and Arden. Arden? I ask. Arden the Iron Soul, Penelope answers. They're quite a powerhouse, and their talent would be overwhelmingly strong in the hands of an even remotely intelligent learned mage. Arden has the capacity to shape and manipulate enormous amounts of mana outside the confines of their own soul. Fortunately for you, Arden isn't a learned mage, so you'll only have to worry about giant golden death rays. Yeah, that doesn't sound too bad, I agree. Although an attack made of highly concentrated Watcher mana might damage my soul. I'm not sure, since Watcher mana doesn't normally hurt any part of me other than my own mana, but if it's concentrated enough to damage physical objects I wouldn't be surprised if it can damage anima as well. Mana normally damages neither, after all. On second thought, maybe it does, I muse. I guess I'll kill Arden first, if possible. I pause. I'm already planning the order, huh? I don't like killing, certainly not in the way Penelope does. I'll admit I do love eating souls, and that usually necessitates killing, but as tasty as human souls consistently are, there's nothing about them that's better than monster souls other than average size. I'd be perfectly happy not having to murder anyone ever again, but that's just not in the cards, is it? Not unless I want to leave Valka entirely, and I'd rather kill 1,000 Templars than have to abandon the only people I've ever really cared about. The question still nags at me, though. Could a smarter person find a better way? And if so, how can I become that person? I'd also like to discuss the plan with the many ex-prisoners you've brought here, if that's okay, Penelope continues. The more people we can get involved, the better our chances of success. Makes sense to me, I acknowledge. Talk to Jeremiah first, he's probably the best guy to poke holes in your plan. I'm sure To Kill From Above would be happy to kill Templars as well. That's the Hiverock soldier, she asks. Watcher's eyes, I want to dissect him so badly. You can after he inevitably betrays us, I answer, waving her off. I don't kill people for things I expect they're going to do. Vivisect, then. We don't have to kill him, Penelope pouts. Do you even have time for him right now? I ask. She sighs. Yeah, she doesn't, and we both know it. Well, speaking of inevitable betrayal, Penelope muses, you don't have any problems with me backstabbing Capita and Sky, do you? Nah, I grunt. Altrix might be sad, but she'll get over it after we tell her about the perception event. Wait, do the people here not know about the Skyhope perception event? I mean, some of them might. I hedge. But probably not. They've nearly all been captured for well over 2 years. The staff probably knows, but that's it. Oh, Penelope muses. That could be fun. Do you mind if I borrow Manus? Go for it, I shrug. I should probably get up and start talking to other people, I guess. Ugh. There are too many people in my life, all of a sudden. Altrix is worried about me, Penta is around and definitely deserves some of my time, I should see how my revenants are getting on, and of course Melissa deserves a hug or 20. Not to mention the general peacekeeping rounds I should be making. It's going to be such a pain. Part of me wants to keep laying here and cuddling forever. Part of me wants to return to the forest and start feasting again. But no. If I ignore my obligations now, I'll be even less likely to get to them later. Besides, it's probably about time that we start reviving former humans as Ozoids. Starting, of course, with Angelion. So, Penelope says about 20 minutes later. About what you said regarding getting up and talking to other people. But you're just so comfy, though. I whine. Okay, so maybe my resolution towards productivity and self-control isn't quite so easily achieved as simply deciding that I'm going to do it. But Penelope is very warm, and she's very squeezable, and I love having something for my tendrils to hold, and she's just ga. Why would any sane Vita willingly leave? I've done all I can do for your extra eyes at this point, Penelope chuckles. And as fun as this is, I do have things to do and places to be. Sorry, Vita. Wait, you've done all you can for my eyes. They're all still here, though. Vita, do you really think I can remove entire organs from your body in less than an hour? She chides. This is going to take days, possibly weeks of work. I go a little stiff at that. That's not good. The rate I'm growing them is accelerating, though, I tell her. I grew my shoulder tentacle today. Is that so? Penelope muses. Well, in that case, come find me the next time you feel something start to grow. Maybe I can figure out a way to stop it. Or perhaps I can figure out a way to make bodily modifications that quickly as well. I snort, sensing she's a lot more excited about the second prospect than the first. Oh, well. One does not date a scientist without expecting to have a lot of experimental science done to their body. I knew this would happen when I agreed to this relationship. Though speaking of, it's still vaguely weird to be in a relationship. I got a lot more used to the idea of Penelope is my girlfriend while I was incarcerated, and though I certainly worried that wouldn't be the case by the time I got out, I'm thankful to find that my fears were for naught. I still don't really know what being my girlfriend means, though, at least not beyond the fact that I can request and receive cuddles without my whole body entering instant fight or flight mode on contact. Except I can also do that with Lynn, and she's very much not my girlfriend. Like, according to my extremely limited understanding of relationships, a girlfriend is just a female friend you either have sex with or intend to have sex with in the future. But we don't do that. Nor will we. So is she just my favorite friend? No, wait, that's best friend. Besides, she's more than a friend. Nora is a friend. Penta is a friend. Penelope is definitely something else entirely. She's more like family. Is that what it means? Not very helpful. If so, I don't exactly understand the concept of family that much better. Whatever. Words and definitions aside, I still need to stop cuddling her and go do other important things. After another 5 minutes, Penelope stands up of her own accord and, despite my protests, carries me out of the tent before plopping me down on my feet. All right, time to get things done, she cruelly orders. I'm going to go speak with Jeremiah like you suggested. So you should. Ugh, I should probably start with my backup mom. I regretfully admit. Then Penta. Then I'll wing it. Child, did you just call us backup mom? Altrix snaps at me from the other side of the clearing. Though given her response I guess she's definitely Sano. I wince, not having thought she would have heard that. I intended it as a term of endearment. I shout back honestly. We were your first mom, she reminds me. Your current mom is the backup. I guess that makes sense. I admit, walking away from my now laughing girlfriend to approach Sano. I just meant that you were next in line to be primary mom if something happens to Lynn. Not that I'm planning on anything bad ever happening to Lynn, but it's always important to have backup plans. People die. Don't give us ideas, Sano grumbles, walking into physical view. She's not being serious, of course, so I don't have to kill her. We're glad you're finally back, Vita. You're horribly filthy, though. We'll find someone to heat up a bath for you. I don't know if I really have time. I hedge. You will make time, Sano insists. You made time to snog a noblewoman, you can certainly make time to ensure you don't ruin her outfit when next you do it. I look down at myself, then glance back at the retreating form of Penelope. I guess I am pretty muddy. I'm glad she's not the kind of prim and proper person to care much about that, though I suppose a big part of her apathy comes from being safe in the knowledge that she has a very effective cleaning spell, and also other people to do her chores for her. Either way. Penelope doesn't have a problem with it, I insist. Why should I? Watcher's eyes, it's like you're still 5 years old, Sano grumbles. You are in charge here, Vita. You need to look the part. I do. I ask, not seeing the connection there. Why do I need to look a certain way to be in charge? And how is, covered in monster blood, not that way? Sano sighs. People will like you more if you're clean, Vita. I don't care if most of these people like me, I argue. I just want them to listen to me. And they're more likely to listen to you if they like you, Sano counters patiently. Have you not noticed that? I scowl a little. I mean, yeah, I guess that makes sense. But I don't see how that translates to taking a bath. I guess baths aren't that bad, but out here in the forest privacy is enforced less by walls and more by threat of death. I don't really feel like dealing with that. We've noticed you latch onto a few people that catch your interest to establish mutual respect with, Sano continues, but for most people you just intimidate them into obedience, ignoring everything else. Humans are more complicated than a series of threats and consequences, Vita. Yeah, that's for damn sure. I wish they weren't, I complain. I'm not really much of a bather, but fine. If that's what'll make you happy, I'll oblige. As usual, Sano does something unexpected. Rather than be happy I agreed to her demands, she just gives me an odd look. Do you even remember how to bathe yourself properly, Vita? What? I snapped defensively. Of course I know how to bathe myself. What kind of question is that? You don't, do you? Sano continues, ignoring me. We will help you. Go talk to your slime friend while we get things set up. Okay. I answer, getting an instinctive impression that saying no would be a bad idea. I don't really want to be taught something I already know how to do, but I suspect that going along with it will be a lot less annoying than trying to stop it, and I've been meaning to spend more one-on-one time with Ultrix anyway. Speaking of my slime friend, I find her dozing on a rock near Margaret's still unfinished teleportation circle. I don't really want to interrogate her about whatever terrible revenge Penelope no doubt concocted, but it was probably a bit unnecessarily mean to leave her with Penelope in the first place. I give her a friendly jiggle by poking her with a finger, to which she responds by trying to suck up and dissolve said finger in her pre-lucid waking moments. Penta quickly notices what she's doing, however, and transfers the parts of her body trying to eat me for breakfast towards the much more productive task of quickly pulling herself up my hand, then my arm, and finally swimming all the way up to my shoulder. Moments later, her slimy body is reshaping itself into the humanoid form she crafted for herself the day I left. Well, look who's back, Penta comments dryly. You get that dragon? Nah, I shrug slightly, jiggling her entire body. Turns out that dragons are cowards and they all ran away from me. She makes a dismissive scoffing noise, though considering the fact that she's tiny enough for me to hold in my hands it comes off as more adorable than anything. Shame, that, she says. Though I suppose I can certainly empathize with anyone who finds you terrifying. I wince. Speaking of terrifying, how did your chat with Penelope go? She shapes her face into a flat glare. You know damn well it wasn't a chat, Vita, she accuses. How do you think it went? She puppet me around for a while, tested out a few animancy torture methods, which is a thing that she has, apparently, then left in a huff. At least it only took a few hours. I'm even mostly sure she even undid everything she did to me, which was a pleasant surprise. What did she do? I ask hesitantly. I'd rather not talk about it, Penta answers firmly. Suffice to say it was appropriately ironic. Exactly the sort of thing I'd expect from her. I'd hoped that would be the end of it, but it sure didn't seem to make her feel any better when she was done. Oh, I answer, my tentacles drooping a bit. Well, did she at least leave you alone after that? Yes, Penta acknowledges. If anything, she's been weirdly polite. I say. I wonder why. Couldn't say, Penta grunts. I don't know what either of you are thinking anymore. It's odd. Well, you did miss out on a couple years, I remind her, to which I interpret her resulting indignation as a resounding, I know. I cough awkwardly and continue. But, other than that, how have things been? How's having your own body treating you? It's strange, she sighs. I've been trying to increase my biomass, but it's slow going. Ozoids don't seem to be very efficient digesters. More importantly, well, it's frightening, I suppose. Oh. I ask. I just figured your fear was of me. That too, she admits. But in general, I have a constant fear of being alone. In my own head, I mean. Throughout most of my life, feeling this way meant I was only a short time away from personality death. It's funny how the thing I wanted most, my own body, now causes me constant anxiety. I nod slowly. Constant anxiety due to the nature of one's existence. I can understand that. Maybe you'll get over it. I suggest. It's not like you're very old. You've been both conscious and sapient for like less than a month, I think. Penta's body loses a bit of cohesion for a moment as she reels from that thought. Damn. The burrow hounds. That feels like a lifetime ago. It literally was, Penta remarks. I just got brought back to life, because I happened to become friends with a baby goddess. Hey. What do you mean, a baby goddess? I protest. Well, you don't even have your first cult yet, do you? Penta sardonically remarks. You're not really an adult goddess until you have at least one cult. I don't even want a cult. I complain. Well, no one wants to pay taxes when they grow up either, but at some point you're just going to have to leave the nest. I groan with exasperation as she chuckles at me, a disturbingly exact copy of Penelope's classic demure giggle. Ugh, this is the moment, I guess. I gotta say it now or I never will. I'm sorry I left you with Penelope like that, I manage. I was mad about what you said regarding Vitamin and I, but I still shouldn't have just given her free rein, you know. Penta gives me a searching look, which considering her body is a very purposeful decision. It seems a little pointless to me since she knows I barely pay attention to faces and read emotions from her soul anyway, but it is what it is. You probably shouldn't have, she agrees. It wasn't exactly a fun way to come back to life. Still, it's not like I don't deserve it. I never wanted to torture Penelope in the way she tortured me, but I still did it. She seems to have gotten her pound of flesh now, so that's that. Now I'm just worried for her. Penelope is both more and less broken of a person than she thinks she is, if that makes any sense. Not really, I admit. She barks out a dry laugh. Yeah, I guess I expected that response. Welp, I guess I need to take care of that, I sigh. You wanna come with, Penta? To a bath? Ugh, wouldn't that be nostalgic? But no, unfortunately, there's no real point. Large bodies of water could kill me if I lose cohesion, and I'm self-cleaning anyway. Self-cleaning, huh? 1 point for the ooze body column, I guess. I stretch my hand out towards the rock Penta had been dozing on when I found her, and she quickly twists down my arm to plop down on it. I'm going to try to revive some humans in a bit, I tell her. Can I count on you to help? Not sure how much help you expect from me, but I'll be there, she agrees. I nod, turning to approach Nyx. I hope she assembled something suitably private. Public bathing is the default in Valka, and I've gone to public baths plenty of times. Still, I'm never excited about the prospect of being naked for any reason, let alone with other people around. I'm not modest, just paranoid. Even now that my bones can survive explosions and my muscles can rip a man in half, I can't get over the discomfort of exposing weakness. Bad things happen to street kids that caught the wrong person's eye. More clothing was always better than less. Thankfully, construction seems to have progressed quickly while I was away, to Kill from Above still directing groups in the creation of small wooden cabins. After meeting up with Nyx, she's Nyx right now, she takes me into one of them. It's pretty much just a small shed with a barrel full of water in it, but the water is hot and the room is private, so all things considered I'm pretty happy with it. I start to strip down, tossing my things in the corner of the room until Nyx starts stuttering in protest. If you could give us those, we'll have them washed as well, she stammers. I shrug, tossing them her way. My outfit isn't important enough to worry about, it's not even real armor. As long as I get something to wear back before I'm done bathing, I don't care what it is. Oh okay, so, here's the soap, Nyx says, holding it out to me. You, know how to use soap, right? Pretty sure step 1 is not eating it, which was always disappointing, I answer dryly, accepting the stuff. Is this all a plot to do mother-daughter things with me? Nyx squeaks with embarrassment, bringing her hands up to her face. It's not really a plot, she answers. We're not even used to having a daughter. It's nice in some ways. I'm not really sure how to respond to that, so I don't. The bath is fine. Predictably, my self-care skills don't live up to Altrix's standards, and I get taught a lot about the proper way to use soap. I humor her, seeing no reason not to, and I have to admit that I end up feeling squeaky clean afterwards, which is a very strange experience. I literally haven't taken more than a shitty sponge bath in 2 years. Afterwards, I even get some new clothes. Even better, I get armor. My new outfit is a cool black segmented gambeson, designed with joints and multiple layers in mind so that when Nora turns the outer layer rigid I can still have padding to help me absorb heavy blows. I look a bit puffy, I guess. But it's very practical and exactly what I need, so who cares? The dumbest looking parts of the outfit are covered by my new cloak anyway. Thanks, Nyx. I say, happily noting how well it fits me. A little bit tight, but overall it's almost perfect. This is pretty great, actually. Oh. You're welcome. Nyx answers. I believe Margaret's friend Nuga's made it. It was teleported over a few days ago. I pause. That would explain the fit, yeah. Did she use her own measurements for this? Oh well, it's hardly the weirdest thing in my life. Is the teleporter working? I ask, deciding to focus on that instead. Well enough for non-living objects, yes. Nyx answers. Only a small chance of material loss. Material loss sounds like it'd be bad for living objects, I agree offhandedly. Pretty bad, yes. I nod understandingly. There are a lot of important body parts, I think. Either way, now that I'm dressed for success, it's finally time to bring my sister back to life. You know, probably. I assume Melissa has gotten her mass back while I've been away. Sure enough, when I finally spot her I see she's about the same size she was before we started cutting bits off of her and putting slime souls in them. Which is probably good. She's currently chatting with Penta, who slithered over there to wait for me, presumably. Hey, Melissa. I greet, waving at her. How are you doing? Vita, the girl chirps, half running and half flowing towards me at my words. She moves right up next to me, seems to hesitate, and squirms slightly before asking me a question. See, can I try to hug you? She asks. I think I can do it. That's actually a tough question. I want to say yes, while Melissa would and absolutely has hurt many flies, she certainly wouldn't intentionally hurt me. And damn does this girl need hugs. But at the same time, if she makes a mistake and gets caustic goop on my new gift clothing, that'd be kinda sad. Oh, wait, I know. Nora. I call out, raising my hand towards the sky. My scythe dutifully spins through the air, flying rapidly towards me and landing in my grip. Without needing to tell her, I feel Nora's talent cover my clothes, protecting them from harm. Hug away. I tell Melissa, opening my arms and accepting the small, gooey mass of girl-child flopping her body into them. She erupts into a gleeful set of giggling as her body retains its form, not even attempting to burn my clothing. Hey, you're really doing it. I praise her, patting the back of her head. Awesome job. Yeah, she agrees, giving me a tighter squeeze for a moment before stepping away. Ms. Penta is really smart and good at things. She helped a lot. I didn't help that much, Penta protests. Anyway, I'm healing way better and remembering things really good, just like you said I would. Melissa cheers. Thank you, Ms. Vita. If you need any more bits of me, I'm ready for it. I do, actually. I confirm. This next soul is really, really important to me. It's my little sister Angelian. She's about your age, actually. Not counting all the years she can't remember experiencing, anyway. For both of them, I guess. Oh wow. Is this a human soul, she asks. She'll be like me. Exactly like you. I agree. So everything should go just fine. Are you ready? Yes, she chirps, bravely holding out her arm. I triple-check to make sure Nora's Rothizo tooth edge isn't currently active. We don't want to be cutting soul bits. Here, the Ozoid has its own natural process for that and lop off exactly enough to make a new baby goo girl. Just add soul. Which is, of course, what I do, pulling out Angelian's soul and nestling it carefully into the new body. She's gonna be back. She's gonna wake up. I'm super excited. I probably shouldn't be, I guess. It'll likely take her a few days to interpret her new senses and learn to understand language with her new body and stuff like that, but still. She's alive. She's alive. And almost immediately, she starts silently screaming in panic. Angelian's new liquid body starts moving erratically, her soul struggling to identify her new experiences as anything other than a nightmare. An all-consuming confusion grips her as she tries to move limbs that aren't there, breathe without lungs, and open non-existent eyes in a vain attempt to wake from what she must not believe is real. I freeze, not sure how to react to her sudden, existential agony. Is there something wrong? No, I don't think there are any problems with her body or soul. She just doesn't know how to handle suddenly being an ooze. She, doesn't look so hot, Penta says hesitantly. I don't answer. I don't know how to answer. My sister writhes on the ground. Vita. Penta presses. Hey, Vita, she is having a bad time there. Vita. Will she be okay if we wait? Will she figure things out? How long will it take? Minutes? Hours? Days? How much torture is an acceptable trade-off to reincarnation? Vita. Penta shouts. Hey, answer me. What should we do? I don't know. I snap back. You tell me. I don't want to kill her again. So you want to leave her like this? I don't know. I feel my sister's soul start to cry, begging for help from anything that will listen. Is being an ooze really this bad? I ask Penta. I may be, she hedges. I was born an ooze, my senses as an ozoid are better than my original body. But I guess she has no experience with that. It feels like being stuck in a dream, Melissa says softly. I remember that. It was bad. It was scary. For a long time. Just take her out, Penta says. That would kill Angelian, I remind her. It would return Angelian to the way she's been for the past 2 years, Penta says. Revival is possible. We already proved that. The only question is how, and there has to be a better way than this. Damn it, I hiss. Damn it. I reach into her and, moments after bringing her back, I kill Angelian again. Training starts in an hour, so I rise from torpor and make my way to the courtyard, bringing along my armor but not yet putting it on. It's still nighttime, the island overhead blotting out the light of the sky, but I have never and still don't possess any issue seeing clearly regardless. Of course, not every human is asleep at this time of night, especially not in the barracks, but I still thankfully don't run into anyone before I can get down on my hands and feet in the courtyard and start thrumming my quills as hard as I can. What little light there is in the courtyard all funnels itself into my quills, the temperature in the area rapidly dropping to match. I don't need to come to the courtyard to do this, but it's the only place large enough and outdoors enough in the barracks to both not cause me to accidentally blind someone and not freeze the inside of a building. It's just less of a hassle for everyone if I do this outside. As usual, I question why I'm doing it at all. I know the answer, of course. It feels great, and Lady Vesuvius told me that my frenzy was likely just as much of a general stress response as it was a survival instinct. I should, she says, be purposefully trying to relax and make myself more comfortable where possible. It feels like a disgusting perversion of justice to sit here and do something I find enjoyable after everything I did. I nearly killed my own captain. Why am I still a trainee at all? I should be put down like the rabid animal I am. But that's not my fate, I guess. After only a day I was back to my usual routine, everything about my training the same as before I lost control, barring the absence of Gina in our classes. Gina, of all people, got punished for this while I did not. She broke the law, while I did what I did under extreme duress and, in legitimately perceived self-defense, and my supposedly future captain, the real victim in all of this, has declined to press charges. But that doesn't change anything. I still lost control. I still ate human flesh. I still almost killed people. I am at fault. I should be punished. I don't understand. Predictably, understanding doesn't come before people do, and I'm forced to stop soaking my body in stolen warmth as more and more future and current Templars start to wake up around the base. I'm in the middle of putting my armor on in preparation for combat class when my fellow trainees arrive, Melek's hateful glare contrasting Xavier and Bentley's warm greetings as usual. Today is the 5th day since that awful incident, and routine has been both my escape and a grating reminder of how much I don't deserve to be here. I finish putting on my armor and getting into formation shortly before the instructor arrives, right at dayfall. We perform our usual stretches, go for our usual run, do our usual drills, entirely as expected. The only difference is how I've stopped holding back. I no longer try to keep pace with my fellow trainees, freely lapping them multiple times as I complete the tasks. The instructor responded to this by significantly increasing the distance I'm supposed to travel compared to everyone else, but I don't care. I don't even know if my body benefits from these exercises the way human bodies do, but I still don't care. It's useful nonetheless, since laps naturally involve turning. I can get a feel for how quickly I can accelerate, decelerate, and change direction while in my armor. I have far less traction wearing chitin boots than I do with my talons, since I can't dig anything into the ground for better grip. It feels awkward, slippery, and slow. It's another thing to practice, doing it over and over in a different way each time until I have the movements perfectly optimized. It keeps my mind off of things. We're sparring today, the instructor barks. Sword and board. You can cast and use talents only if you can do it while you have your weapons in hand. I'm pairing you off, Xavier and Harvey, Melek and Lark, Bentley and myself. Begin. I resist the urge to sigh. The instructor hasn't had me spar with Melek or Gina since the incident, but I suppose this was inevitable. At least with our helmets on, I don't have to look at his furious glower the entire time I beat him into the ground. I don't really see the point of including me in the spars. The goal of these things which I finally got explained properly to me is much like the game of tag, as I thought. Rather than predator fleeing practice, however, it's live combat practice. There are some basic rules to ensure no one takes permanent damage from it, but otherwise it's open enough to give us legitimate experience in real fights, which I can't deny is the best way to learn. Assuming, of course, there is anything to learn. I feel like I'd be more helpful to my team if I fought them in my capacity as a Vrothizo, utilizing my speed and strength in a straightforward way so that they can learn to fight my physically superior brethren using prediction, preparation, and cunning. Baiting my kind into traps is relatively easy, and in my experience it's the best, and often only, way to kill a physically superior foe. And when my wounds pushed me to frenzy against Fulvia, when I tried to devour Captain Jelisaveta, that is how I fought. It's all I was. A raging animal. My teammates need to know how to put me down when I'm like that. They have to. If it ever happens again, I want them to kill me. But that's not the purpose of a spar. I'm expected to fight as a Templar, not an animal. I am judged on my ability to take down my opponent as quickly and efficiently as possible. Which means that, the moment Melik takes his first step in my attack range, I move forward and smash the flat of my blade into his foot before it can touch the ground again. He starts to topple over, leaving him the option of either collapsing to the ground or hopping slightly to reorient his balance. He makes the mistake of choosing to hop, putting his entire body in the air for a split second and making it trivial to snatch up both of his legs with a kick and make his trip to the ground that much more painful. He strikes out with his sword in midair, but I deflect it with my shield as he crashes down, my own sword coming to rest on his neck. This is normally where a spar would end, but Melik ignores the implied warning and tries to move. We're only using blunted training swords, so to teach him what sword to the neck means I jab mine into his windpipe, hard. He immediately starts to choke, which is finally enough to get him to stop fighting back. I step away in case I hit his throat hard enough to warrant biomantic intervention. It's a little hard to tell with humans what is and isn't a life-threatening bout of choking. The biomancer on standby does indeed quickly run up to treat him, but declares he has a clean bill of health once he catches his breath. Okay, good. I was fairly sure that level of force wouldn't crush his windpipe, but it's comforting to know for sure. Lark, the instructor barks at me, looking up from where he's rhythmically blocking strike after unrelenting strike from Bentley. No more blows to the throat. Melik, when someone has a sword on your throat, the spar is over. You lose. Understand? Sir. Melik and I both confirm, and the instructor returns his focus to Bentley. We turn back to each other. Well, that's a good thing to learn, I answer plainly. In a fair fight, I'm always going to beat you. Language, I respond automatically. And my point isn't to establish dominance here, it's to suggest that you should stop fighting fair. Use your metamancy stuff. Turn the battlefield to your advantage. By the time I make a single glyph, you'll already have one, Melik points out. True, I admit, eliciting an annoyed grunt. I don't know why he's so mad about things he said in the first place. Let's assume you prepared this area in advance, in that case. I'll stay put until you're ready. You're fast enough to avoid my glyphs by running directly over them, he dismisses. It'd be a waste of time. Place them in spots I can't bypass, then, I suggest. Or design them to activate preemptively. Or put them on your body so they retaliate when I strike you. Or fill them with non-offensive effects that limit my movement. Or. Okay, shut up, Melik snaps. Give me a moment. I nod and wait, letting Melik pull his metal dust out of the vial he carries it in to start shifting it into spell alignments. I watch carefully, making sure to get a good view on every metal configuration he uses in case the knowledge turns out to be useful later. I still can't channel, which means I can't look at spells with mana sight to memorize them yet, but Melik's metal glyphs are at least visible. I'll get as much of a head start as I can. Of course, I'm also paying attention to where Melik puts each glyph, watching as various types are spread across the battlefield and others bloom to life on his armor. My senses can't tell one magical glyph apart from any other, I can kind of feel where they are, but they all seem more or less the same regardless of what they do. The only difference I can determine is probably in how much mana each glyph contains, and since they're all nearly identical in this regard I assume they're all capped at the mana value Melik's metal collection can hold. I hear that Melik's casting technique turns a lot of heads, shaping metal into glyphs that cast other, non-metal glyphs would be pointlessly redundant for anyone that didn't have Melik's talent. He apparently can use kineticism on metal and only metal, which is a bit oddly specific, but I suppose it's not much different from Xavier, whose talent lets him use kineticism exclusively on water. I glance over at him, watching my friend fight, and repeatedly lose, against Harvey, the latter of whom isn't even using his talent. Xavier's jerky, almost puppet-like movements indicate that he is using his talent, since he can move around the water inside his own body. It's apparently very difficult for him to do without simply ripping his cells and blood vessels open from the inside, so it's good that he's getting a better handle on it. Okay, I'm ready, Melik announces, returning most of my attention back to him. Our entire sparring area is now completely carpeted in glyphs, the spot I'm currently standing being the only exception. This means Melik himself is standing on glyphs, but they aren't activating. Are his glyphs manually activated? No, he would have put one immediately below my feet, in that case. So his glyphs just don't activate on him. Are they designed that way? Or maybe one of the glyphs on his body prevents the glyphs he touches from activating. There are 2 glyphs on the bottom of his boots that weren't used anywhere else. Because, naturally, while I can't tell the glyphs apart with my senses, I watched him cast them all. So I know how many different types of glyphs there are as well as where each type of glyph is, even if I don't yet know what any of them do. I guess there's only one way to find out. Let's begin, then, I say, lowering myself into a defensive stance and deciding to test what he chooses to do if I simply refuse to move from my safe spot. Will he cast a projectile spell at me, or just make a glyph below me? He goes for the glyph, which is probably the better option. I respond by kicking a spray of dirt at him, hoping to disrupt his concentration and activate the glyphs in front of me with the projectile rather than my own body. Unfortunately, they ignore the dirt. What makes them activate? Do they detect living things? Pressure. I smell bugs nearby. Probably pressure, or at least living things above a certain size. That's tricky. I try to quickly smack my sword on the glyph in front of me to test this, and every single glyph surrounding me suddenly explodes. I jump high into the air to avoid the blast. Remote activation. Really? But that's the worst possible choice for dealing with my speed. It relies on Melik's own reflexes, which are much slower than my ability to move. By the time he tries to blow something up, I won't even be there anymore. I've aimed my jump towards where he's standing, though I had to take somewhat of a high arc to avoid the large blast radius of his glyphs. Wait a minute, is that what he's going for? Forcing me into the air where I'm restricted by how fast I can fall. That normally wouldn't be effective because I could use my webs to yank myself around, but I'm wearing gauntlets and naturally don't have any webs set up in the courtyard. Jumping was a bad move on my part, a habit ingrained from a kind of fighting I can't do right now. Annoying, so annoying. Melik shouldn't win using a trick that wouldn't normally work. Can't let him think I'm that easy to take down. He needs to be stronger. I twist my body as the runes below me activate in another wide grouping, my shield down and sword up, aiming to smash Melik while blocking whatever attack he has coming from below. To my surprise, however, the glyphs don't seem to strike me at all. Instead, their magic rapidly slows my fall, causing my swing to crest above Melik's head as I'm suspended in midair. Gotcha, freak, Melik declares triumphantly as I flail around, floating in midair. He points his shield at me, and I have no doubt the glyph attached to it is an offensive one. I guess in the context of the spar, you do, I admit. You win. Not bad. Melik seems annoyed, but he does lower his shield, not opting to attack after I've conceded. The instructor gets very angry whenever someone does that. If this was a real fight I'd break my gauntlets, I explain simply. But I'm supposed to stay in uniform for spars. Then what would you do, he asks. Throw them at me. I sigh, dropping my sword to the ground as I slowly rotate upside down in the kineticism field. Properly undoing the straps on that hand's gauntlet, I let it fall as well, then launch a thread from my hand onto Melik's chest plate. With a quick yank of my finger, the two of us are pulled towards each other, and my claws meet his neck as he stumbles. I would do this, I answer. You've seen me making things with my webs, you should know I have them. Nonetheless, he still seems surprised. Do humans not think about this stuff? So strange. Before he can respond to me, though, his glyphs abruptly deactivate, causing me to fall face first onto the ground. Well then I would do that, Melik counters smugly. Ow, I mumble into the dirt. I guess I deserve that. Why are you helping me? Melik asks as I brush off the front of my helmet. You know I hate you. I mean, yeah, you've made that pretty clear, I agree. But I don't hate you. I know why Gina and the captain aren't around anymore, Malik growls, and my memory answers him. I'm there again. The fist comes down and I'm done taking it without answering. I warned her. I told her. She isn't listening. She knows how dangerous I am. The loud one is louder than ever. Clearly she wants to return things to the way they were before. My teeth intercept her hand. Beautiful, delicious human blood pours onto my tongue. Yes. Yes. It's been too long. This is the flavor I need. This is my reason for life. Why do I keep eating rats all day when I could be feasting on nearly endless swaths of incredible, unparalleled living human meat? Because it's evil. Because it's wrong. It sure doesn't feel wrong. I watch Captain Jelisaveta throw the loud one off of me, and I want to laugh. Her too, then. I wonder how she'll taste. I wonder if she'll manage to kill me after all. I know you're nothing but a monster, deep down, Malik continues, and I barely hold back a laugh. So while the Templars might be dumb enough to trust you, if I ever see anything like that happen, I will take that chance to end you once and for all. I take off my helmet, shaking my hair to try and get all the dirt out of it before giving Malik a thankful grin. And that's why I'm helping you, I tell him gratefully. You get it. Now come on, that trick won't work on me if I'm frenzying. What do you have in terms of raw firepower? I feel as though I'm missing out on something for not being able to see his expression behind his helmet. Malik is truly speechless. I grin wider, and almost cry. You forgot, didn't you? Malik, like I told you before, if you think you can successfully kill me, actually kill me fast enough that I don't have time to hurt anyone. Do it. Please. No one able to is willing to. So hurry up and get strong enough. He stares at me as I put my helmet back on, pick my sword back up, and settle back into a combat stance. His next words hold an uncomfortable mixture of fear and disbelief. You really mean that, he realizes. Of course I mean that, I laugh. It's not funny, but I can no longer help it. Why do people keep thinking I say things I don't mean? I barely even knew what lying was before I learned it was a sin. Trust me, Malik, I get that I'm a walking disaster waiting to happen. I live that. So quit wasting time threatening me and start fighting me again, because I already know that if you had the power to put me down you would have done it by now. My body thrums with stress-filled energy, so I don't give him time to prepare the field after that. We simply spar over and over, and I beat him down over and over. Not trying to hurt him or anything, just trying to show him. Teach him what he needs. He starts to figure out the tricks, learning to predict rather than react, but a creeping dread sinks in as I watch myself adapt to him faster than he can do the same to me. By the time the instructor calls off our sparring matches, tears are welling up inside my helmet. He's too weak, and he grows too slowly. He probably won't ever be able to do it, and certainly not before the next time I inevitably lose control. I shouldn't have to live through having hurt people again. I already deserve to die. Why can't the world just do it already? I hate this. I hate everything. The horrible temptation inside me wants to find Galdra and murder everyone around her until she has no choice but to turn me to ash. Mostly because I just want to eat, and some part of me will think of every excuse imaginable to do so. I am truly tempted, this time. But it defeats the point of dying to prevent myself from hurting anyone if I hurt people in order to die. I want to scream. I want to kill. I want to curl up in a ball and never think about anything ever again. But I shove it all aside, trying to lose myself in duty and routine. Do what I'm told. Learn what I'm supposed to. Find what the Watcher made me for, so I can do it and be done already. Practice weaving in law class. Try not to burst into tears in ethics class. Continue attempting new ways to channel in magic class. To my horrified delight, I finally succeed in the last of those 3. Because that's what I need right now, to have even more of a path to power. The instructor immediately stops me, telling me to hold the energy inside me as carefully as possible, and try to push it towards my fingers. Slowly, carefully, he guides me through the process, since the first time is the most important and most dangerous. I need to move the power in my body into my hands so I can perform the cancel command and safely get rid of it, but I struggle with that as well. Pushing the mana through my body feels sluggish and wrong, like I'm trying to suck an artery's worth of blood out of a tiny scrape. But keeping my focus on holding it isn't that much more difficult than keeping my focus on not killing everyone around me, though I admit that's a slightly different skill, so I eventually manage it, perform a perfected cancel command, and feel the pressure in my belly disappear. I did it. I've proven Vrothizo can be learned mages. How awful. How terrifying. I wish the instructor wasn't so congratulatory. It frightens and infuriates me. Doesn't he get what this means, how dangerous this could be? The silver lining, at least, is the fact that my soul apparently can't hold much mana at all, even by novice standards. As he watches me channel, the instructor notes that most people hold mana near the center of their soul, but I only seem to be able to keep it in the outer circumference of mine. It's abnormal, but not entirely unexpected, he tells me. After all, a non-human likely doesn't have the same soul structure as a human would. Afterwards I quickly focus on perfecting the Essential 8, a series of spells that all Templars must know how to cast before they graduate. They're fairly basic, but versatile and generally useful for survival, creating flame, creating light, creating noise, moving small objects, mana sight, drawing water from things, and 2 different kinds of basic healing spells. I can cast them all by the end of class, if very weakly. It's just memorization, which of course is my default. Everything okay, Lark? Bentley asks after class. It's super cool that you figured out how to cast spells. I'm still getting the cancel commands right. But, you don't seem very happy about it. I'll be okay, Bentley, I sigh. Thanks for asking. Instinctively, he almost reaches out to give me a reassuring pat on the shoulder, but he stops himself. Bentley's default form of affection is contact, usually hugs, but I've made it clear that touching people makes me very uncomfortable and he's doing his best to accommodate that. Contact just brings up bad memories for me and nasty temptations. Okay, well, I don't know if I can help, but I can listen if you want to talk about it, he offers. I nod, about to supply the expected second thank you when the world decides to go and make my day that much worse. My nose catches her scent. Captain Jelisaveta is back. She's here. She's back. No, 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 no. I don't want to see her again. I don't want to know anything other than the fact that she's alive. Nothing else. Please. Naturally, of course, she's walking right towards me. I'm not sure what Captain Jelisaveta's talent is, if she even has one, but she's certainly very perceptive and never seems to have trouble finding what she wants. Here it is, then. Time to brace myself for an onslaught of pain from the inside and the out. I'm already trying to get the memory of her taste out of my mouth when she finally shows up, waving what I know must be her freshly grown arm in my direction. Trainee, she greets me with confusing cheerfulness. Hey there. The lady finally let me out of bed. Are you doing okay? You need anything? You've been stuck in the barracks without me, right? I blink, finding myself speechless. She's just acting normal. Why? What? I can't say anything, I only find myself staring at her arm. She notices, flexing the fingers as if to prove it works. Yeah, First Lady Vesuvius does fast work. So as you can see, I'm A-okay. No harm done. I ate your arm, I blurt. And I got better, Captain Jelisaveta dismisses. And technically, I fed you my arm on purpose. Figured it might help. Wait, you what? Bentley asks. You what? I ask. Are you crazy? My supposed future captain raises an incredulous eyebrow at me. Am I crazy? You're the one that walked off alone and purposefully let a woman beat you half to death. It's part of my job to keep you safe and healthy, Lark. So I did my job. Captain, I tried to kill you, I remind her, not understanding what's going on here. And I forgive you for that, Captain Jelisaveta answers frankly. You have my permission to forgive yourself, too. Not that you need it. I stare at her, dumbfounded. That's it? I ask. That's all you have to say? You could have died. I ate you. I lost control, I could have killed dozens of people if things had gone a little differently. Well, it didn't, Jelisaveta grunts. And all that took me was an arm I'd already lost once anyway. Seems like a good deal to me. So if you're sorry, don't play martyr again and get yourself injured enough to lose your head, okay? You have an important role to play, Lark. The brass isn't putting all this work in for you for no reason, understand? No, I admit. Not really. She sighs, then jerks her head towards a side hallway. All right, follow me. She leads me off into an empty side room, turning to me with an expression of uncharacteristic seriousness. Okay, I want to start things off with an apology, Lark, she tells me. I should have never left you alone with Fulvia in the first place. That was my mistake. That's not your. Okay, I allow. Apology accepted. But what's this about a reason? Yeah, that's the next thing. This is top secret, okay? You don't have to lie to anybody about it, but if they ask you tell them you can't answer. Understand? I understand. Okay. Well, Lark, we need you because your teeth can bite through souls. And there are some very dangerous liches we're hoping you can protect the world from. Wait, I say quietly. You don't mean. Vita and ours, Jelisaveta confirms. Command wants you to eat them alive, because as far as I'm aware that's the only way we have to take them out for good. Their hope is that the things that make you a monster will be the very things that save everyone in Valka. Without consciously thinking about it, I sit down on the floor. My mind is an empty buzz, incapable of comprehending the totality of what I just heard. The church wants me to eat people. The church wants me to eat people. The church wants me to eat people. I can't, I whisper. I can't do that. Jelisaveta makes a sympathetic face, squatting down to join me on the floor. Yeah, I didn't think you'd like the news very much, she admits, sighing. Which is why I figured I should tell you now. Give you some time to think and decide. It's a big ask. That's a painful understatement. The church was the entire basis of August's morality system, which is of course the entire reason I have a morality system. My empathy, my humanity, my adherence to right and wrong, it's fundamentally and inseparably rooted to the truth that eating people is wrong, no matter what. It doesn't matter how good it feels, it doesn't matter if I think it's going to help a friend, it doesn't matter if I'm getting beaten half to death, it's wrong. Full stop. I have to believe that. Or else I'll. I can't, I tell her again. She has to understand that. Well, I'm pretty sure you can, Jelisaveta counters patiently. The question you're struggling with is whether you should. And that's a much trickier topic. No, I disagree. No, it's not. It's a sin. It's wrong. You can't give me a good reason to eat people. I can't believe there is one. Please. Jelisaveta's eyes open a little wider. Oh, she says. Oh, I see. I'm sorry, Lark. She scoots forward, moving to a cross-legged position and getting as close to me as she can without touching. Her smile is so sympathetic, so understanding, that I burst into tears. I hate this. I hate myself. This can't be my fate, can it? But it makes too much sense. Why are the Templars helping me? Why did the Watcher make me like this? Why do I have to suffer? The questions I ask myself every day have answers, now. I eat souls so that I can slay immortals. That is my purpose. But I can't. The tears stream down my face as jealous Avetta sits with me in relative silence. Just the two of us, sitting in some unused closet in the barracks. My body doesn't normally use much water, so crying this much can make me noticeably thirsty. I should probably try to stop, but in the end I lose track of time long before I run out of tears. I'm probably missing class. Jealous Avetta doesn't seem to mind, though, just waiting patiently for my sobbing to slow down. What's it like? She asks when it finally does. I've read a lot about you, Lark. What you've done, how your body works. But what's it like, being you? I don't really know how to answer that, I choke out. I don't know what it's like to be you. Humans are weird. So good, but so weird. You think we're good? Jealous Avetta asks, sounding surprised. We're not really that good. You don't feel constant urges to eat each other, I bite out. Yeah, but some of us do it anyway, Jealous Avetta shrugs. Think about that. Sure, we have our instincts, but most of us aren't a non-stop mess of primal needs for violence. We'll hurt each other out of anger and stuff, but by and large when we slaughter each other, we're lucid during it. I'd argue that you have it worse than us, and yet you're still doing better. I shake my head. I've heard about that, but I've literally never seen two humans try to kill each other, I counter. And there are a ton of you. You're all over the place. There's no way the vast majority of you have killed any number of humans other than 0. Your problems are outliers. It's not comparable. You don't want to kill each other. You pretty clearly don't want to kill people, Jealous Avetta says. I shake my head again, holding back a second bout of tears. That's what you don't get, I say slowly, barely holding myself back from screaming at her. None of you seem to get it. I do want to eat you. I want to kill and eat every last one of you, and I want it so badly that it hurts. As usual, the fear and disgust I expect to see on Jealous Avetta's face never comes. She just looks calculating. Far calmer than anyone should be in a room with someone that swallowed their arm half a tendy ago. Could you elaborate on that? She asks. Elaborate? She wants to know more. I don't know what to say, Captain, I tell her, but it proves to be false. Once the words start coming out, they don't slow down. I don't forget things like humans do. When I think about a memory, it's like I'm there again. Every feeling, every emotion, every sound, every thought, every urge, it's all back. I live through the worst parts of my life over and over again, and each time it's new, a different part of the experience coming into focus. When I look at you, I'm remembering the feeling of sawing through your bone, the taste of your blood, the ecstasy of having something to eat that isn't just another awful rat. You have no idea how incredible you all taste. That's why I hunted you. Why I still want to hunt you. I wish I could go back to before I knew right from wrong. I'm not made for this, Captain. My whole body is starving all the time. I don't think there's any limit to how much I can eat, and eating is the only thing that makes me not feel completely awful all the time, but I can't do it anymore because I'll just get worse and worse, and I don't want my body to change, but I can't stop myself from changing if I eat anything that doesn't make me feel horrible. There's nothing I can do. Everything makes some part of me feel horrible. I'm trapped. I can't even die. Captain Jealous Avetta raises a hand at that, indicating she'd like to ask me something. I pull the words back, silencing myself so she can speak. Do you want to die? She asks softly. Yes, I confirm immediately. I've tried to kill myself, but I always end up surviving and going into frenzy instead. It doesn't work. I almost threw myself off the edge, but I was afraid I'd just end up as some other island's problem. I'm just a coward. Captain Jelisaveta nods slowly, staring at me with a quiet look of concern. Once she's gathered her thoughts, she quietly starts to speak. My talent gives me exceptionally sensitive senses, she explains slowly. I can make out any number of noises from absurdly far away. I can read something a mile away if there's nothing blocking my vision. I can smell well, I'm always smelling far too much. It's often quite overwhelming. And when I was younger, when I first got my talent, I couldn't handle it at all. I don't understand why she's telling me any of this, but something about the intensity of her look makes me focus on her anyway. It was agonizing. So much information was entering my head all the time that I couldn't even think. My parents had to take me to see a biomancer because I tried to claw my own eyes out with nothing but my fingernails. I had to be restrained, or I'd try to kill myself. I wanted to kill myself. My life was nothing but agony for years before I forced myself to deal with what my body had become. I had to come to terms with the fact that I'd never be the person I wanted to be again. I had to adapt, embrace myself, and move on. And it was awful. I find myself leaning forward a little. I had no idea other people felt this way. I guess that's silly of me, in retrospect. But if a human wanted to die, it should be pretty easy for them to accomplish that, right? No, wait. I'm being stupid. It would be as easy as jumping off the edge, and I couldn't bring myself to do that. I don't want to die anymore, Captain Jelisaveta continues. Sometimes I think about it, but it's not a very strong thought. Oh, I guess I should ask, since your memories work differently. Do you know what I mean by a strong thought? Does that happen to you? Where you'll consider something for a moment but it might not feel as tempting as it does otherwise, or it feels extra difficult to resist. Even if it's the same thought. Yeah, I admit, nodding. Sometimes are worse than others. Harder. Exactly, Captain Jelisaveta nods. Lark, I wanted to die because I was in constant pain. My whole world was wrong, and I had no hope that it would ever be right again. If you told me back then that I would be maybe not great, but okay. If you told me I'd end up where I am now. Well, if I could have even understood you, I certainly wouldn't have believed you. But I am here. I figured myself out. Things got better. And, well, I guess the important thing is that my problems didn't go away. They never got any smaller. But I got better at dealing with them, so here I am now. Oh. I see. You're trying to draw parallels between our experiences, I summarize. You're trying to tell me that things will get better for me, like they did for you. I'm trying to tell you that I don't understand what it's like to be a Vrothizo, but I do understand what it's like to wish for oblivion, she corrects. I understand what it feels like to be stuck in a nightmare you can't wake up from. I understand what it's like to feel as though there's nothing and no one that can make your life worthwhile, that any joy you grasp even for a moment will get inevitably washed away by an unrelenting depression. I know what it's like to not care about any of that, because you can't care about anything. And I know what it's like to care so much, you just want it all to end so you don't have to care about anything ever again. Many of her words tear into me, but I still find myself shaking my head. You still think it will get better, I insist. I hope it will get better, she says. I believe you can feel better. And I want you to. I want you to be happy. You barely even know me. I don't see that as a good reason to think you can't overcome this. I shake my head again, more furiously this time. There's nothing to overcome, I tell her. Everything that makes me deserve death has already happened. I can't take them back. I ate and killed my own father, Captain. The best man I've ever known. He's the one that taught me to care, and I stopped talking, pressing my hands over my eyes to try and stave off more tears. I was so small, I whisper. So stupid. I didn't know anything. But I knew enough. And I still did it. I'll always be a monster, Captain. If I ever had a chance for redemption, I lost it when I killed August. Just saying his name is enough to make me ache, my body repressing a sudden, clawing me to scream. I barely succeed at that, but once again, despite how much I try to hold them back, the tears start to flow. Nothing like the loud sobs I had before, just silent, chin-shaking streams that leave me struggling to breathe but too exhausted to care. August. I miss August. I miss him so much. Would you like a hug? Captain Jelisaveta asks softly. No, I choke out, shaking my head. No, I hate hugs. Oh, she answers. Yeah. Me too. I'm not sure why, but something about that makes a laugh fall out of me. Briefly, between the tears, I manage to find that truly silly. Why did you even ask? I wonder. She shrugs. You're very kind, Captain, I manage to say between sniffs. Well, you're clearly quite kind yourself, Lark, she answers. If you weren't, you wouldn't care so much about any of this. I didn't used to be, I whisper. I tortured people. Murdered people. That's the whole reason Fulvia wanted to kill me. Where did you get the idea that kindness isn't a learned skill? Captain Jelisaveta asks. Everyone has to work at it, Lark. It's not invalid just because you used to be terrible at it. I don't have a response to that. It feels pointless to try to form one. I'm just empty. Tell me about him, Captain Jelisaveta says suddenly. What? I ask. Who? August, she answers. You called him your father. Tell me about him. Immediately, instinctively, I hate the idea. The absolute last thing I want to do is talk about August. Just thinking about him is one of the most painful things in my life. But somehow, again, the words come spilling out. Everything does, just because the question was asked. Things I've never spoken, never shared, all laid at her feet. I told her about my disguise, about my struggles to tell humans apart. I told her about helping him, about being invited home with him, about letting him live without knowing why. I told her about Sharif, about how I misunderstood his relationship with his mother, about how I killed her while her husband watched and thought I was doing my friend a favor. I told her about his toys, his lessons, his kindness, his frailty. I told her about the second time I fought Vita, where I ate him as he held me in his arms and called me family. Do you think he'd forgive you, Lark? Jelisaveta asks quietly. I know he did, I respond, my tears having long since dried up. Vita said he did. She revived him, I suppose, after his death. To ask him what he wanted her to do with his soul. My future captain's eyes go wide. She did? Really? She did, I confirm. And I guess he said he wanted to be with me. So she fed me what was left of him. She said it would complete my soul. And that he forgave me. Do you know what she meant? Jelisaveta asks, and I shake my head. I see. Well, I'm an inquisitor, so I can look at souls. Vrothizo souls are supposedly very distinct. Like a black void, all-consuming and all-destroying. Infinitely voracious. But yours isn't like that at all, Lark. You have a wonderful soul. It's warm and it's bright and it smells like wood from the forest, dangerous yet beautiful. It looks very, very human. My breath catches. That's what Vita said. A deep and gleaming light, smelling of fresh wood. She was describing August's soul. And now, somehow. It's mine, I whisper. He gave it to me to keep. I didn't digest it. Jelisaveta raises her eyebrows, but doesn't comment on my words. Definitely forgave you, then, she says instead. So. Do you think he'd want you to forgive yourself? Would he want you to be miserable? He would want me to not hurt anyone, I tell her firmly. But I can't stop myself from hurting people. I either lose control, or I do what the Templars want, and hurt people on purpose. I'm either a monster or a weapon. That's not an answer, she says, holding out her newly grown hand to me. Would he want you to be miserable? What would he tell you if you came to him as a failure? Would he want you to end your life? Or would he want you to pick yourself back up and succeed the next time? I know the answer. I hate it, but I know it. People are meant to persevere, she tells me. We are meant to improve. We pick ourselves up when we fall, forgive those who tripped us, and walk forward together. And every step along the way, we reach a hand out to help the others that have fallen. That is, in my heart, the true nature of humanity. And I see it in you, Lark. We are weak, and we fail, and sometimes our failures bring down everyone around us. But if you keep walking forward, keep helping those you meet, we will all reach a better place together. But when I fall, I whisper, I can bring down a lot more people than you can. True, Jelisaveta nods. But you have more arms than I do. You can help a lot more people up. And is that what this would be? I ask. Will killing Ars and Vita help people? Ars? Certainly, Jelisaveta confirms. If there's anyone in the world that deserves death, it's Ars. Vita is a trickier question. I don't want to kill Vita, I tell her. I think if there's one person in the world that I hate, it's her. But even then, I don't want to kill her. Well, Jelisaveta says, you have until you graduate to decide on that. It likely won't be long after that when we go after her. A necromancer as powerful as she is, even if she's more misguided than evil, isn't something the church can abide by. If you don't want to assist us, I'd suggest dropping out of the program. I chuckle humorlessly. I wasn't under the impression that was an option for me, I tell her. I don't think the Templars are any more keen on having a Vrothizo run around the city than they are a necromancer. Yeah, well, I'll fight for you, Jelisaveta smirks, thumping her chest with a fist. Templar service is voluntary, and they're going to remember it. The choice is yours, Lark. You want to walk out, you can. No questions, no threats, no bullshit. I'll even see if I can get Lady Vesuvius to make you a citizen. So you should consider your decision without worrying about any of that crap, okay? Okay, I promise, nodding. I wipe one more errant tear that started to form, but thankfully no others join it. Hey, I guess this'll be a weird question because I already said no before, but... I swallow. See, can I have a hug after all? Jelisaveta raises her eyebrows, but nods firmly. Of course, yeah, she agrees, holding her hands out. Why? I thought you hated hugs. I hate them because they remind me of August, I tell her, hesitantly leaning forwards. But you kind of already do. She smiles softly, pulling my torso onto her lap. I curl up on the floor beside her as I feel her arms wrap around me, warm and tempting. Just feeling it causes saliva to pool in my mouth. But right now, there are other feelings that beat stronger. Loss, regret, and pain, sure. But for the first time since his death, I remember his living moments again. Love, compassion, uncertainty. I remember the times I looked forward to tomorrow, and smile. The pain is not gone. I know that, sometime soon, I will look at my claws and feel the need to rip open my throat with them, to try desperately to leave this world and flee from self-hate. But something, somehow, is a little more hopeful right now. And I resolve to remember this, too. Idly, seemingly without thought, Jelisaveta starts stroking the top of my head. It makes me tense at first, but unlike Galdra, she is careful with my ears, her gentle ministrations scratching delicately at their base, massaging the muscles I use to move them without hurting. More and more, I relax, and soon enough I feel my body vibrating a low hum with every breath I take. I close my eyes, and I'm not afraid. Okay, so, that's close, but you need to remember that these movements don't exist in a vacuum, I patiently remind Bentley. Remember, we're not just making hand signs there, we're practicing for when we'll use these movements to physically shape a mana structure. So every single gesture you perform is relative to the gesture you performed before it. That's why steps 8 and 19 end with your hand in the same configuration but require different movements to reach that point. Okay, Bentley answers hesitantly, trying to correct himself and failing. I carefully grab his hand, pushing down the instinctive urge to yank it up into my mouth, and guide him through the motions. This is the 28th time I've done this for this particular step, but Bentley has been averaging about 50 corrections per step before finally internalizing what he's been doing wrong, so I ignore my irritation. Humans have different strengths. It's been a month since I nearly killed Captain Jelisaveta, and the final Templar readiness test is fast approaching. I'm pretty much set to pass, so I've been tutoring my fellow trainees in my free time. In Bentley's case, that often means all night, since unlike other humans he can stay awake for days at a time without suffering any noticeable ill effects. So here we are, practicing magic in the dorm common room well after nightfall. Bentley still has to sleep sometimes, but his stamina talent is no joke. Which is good, because he really needs the extra study time. You'll get it, Bentley, I reassure him. You're getting there bit by bit. Just keep practicing and you'll have it down in no time. Thanks, Lark, Bentley sighs. But then I'll have to learn to channel, and then I'll have to learn the Essential 8. Xavier says the Essential 8 are way easier than the cancel commands, I tell him, smiling toothlessly. And I can't say I have much experience either way, but I can see it. The cancel commands are a lot more complicated. Except for the healing spells, I guess, but we'll get to those later. My backpedaling doesn't seem to get to him, thankfully. He nods with renewed motivation, and we get back to practice, my attention split between making sure he's not performing his gestures wrong and watching the flow of mana as it travels through my own body. Channeling continues to be difficult for me, but at least I've found out why. Mana that enters the center of my soul vanishes. Which is weird, because from the outside my soul looks perfectly normal. Jelisaveta says that she's not skilled enough at soul sight to look any deeper than the outside, but it seems likely that the inner workings of my soul are different from the layers on the outside. Mana that enters the middle gets sucked away, presumably to wherever it is the stuff I eat goes. Unlike eating, however, pulling mana into my soul feels awful, sending shudders of displeasure through my body that get worse every time I screw up and suck in too much mana by accident. Things are fine if I keep the mana in my outer soul layer, but straining my limits there and trying to internally shape mana into a hollow sphere so I can hit my limit and cast spells with the maximum amount of power I have available to me is slow and takes a lot of focus. Still, I'm figuring it out. You guys gonna be out here all night again? A groggy Xavier asks, yawning as he wanders into the common room with us. Probably, Bentley admits sheepishly. I'm making progress, but I have a long way to go. Xavier mumbles, sitting down on the couch next to him. Okay, well, let me help then. You should probably sleep, I scold lightly. You actually need it. No, Xavier yawns. I'm gonna help my boyfriend. He flops over, nestling his head onto Bentley's lap. There, he declares. Helping. Well, you do need to be able to perform your cancel commands regardless of distractions, I tell him, and Bentley's face lights up as he resumes his work, though he switches to the one-handed cancel command practice so he can pet Xavier's hair while doing it. Ah, that looks so nice. Now I want the captain to scratch my head again. Wait, did I just think that? Gah, no, bad idea. Dangerous, very dangerous. Keep contact to a minimum. I look away, returning focus to my own soul. This is how most days have been. I work, I train, I read, I practice, and I help others do the same. Bentley puts in more effort than anyone, even though he's the slowest to learn. Xavier continues to keep things positive, his unique combination of silliness and thoughtfulness always shining through. Harvey still mostly ignores everyone else, but is there to lend a hand to anyone that asks. And Melik hates me slightly less, I think. But it's kind of hard to tell. He's certainly more willing to work with me and listen to my advice, so I'll count that as a win. I haven't had another frenzy episode since then either, though I think part of that is because Lady Vesuvius increased my food allotment. I have enough to save for emergencies, even, which is good because I've caused a few heavily damaging internal mana explosions while experimenting with channeling, and things might have gotten bad if I didn't have extra food to heal myself with. I'm being careful, of course, but well, it's heartening to have things not go wrong. Everything is on track towards me becoming a Templar, someone respected and worthy of that respect. Except, of course, the fact that I still haven't decided whether I want to be one or not. After all, my purpose as a Templar will mainly be to kill, and while I'm fine with killing monsters, people are an entirely different matter. Even bad people. But it's okay. At least for now. I have time to make that decision. Xavier quickly ends up falling asleep on Bentley's lap as we continue magic practice through the night. In the morning we go to combat class, and I end up paired with Melik again. Which is fine, even if I've given up on his ability to kill me. He's still a dedicated sparring partner that doesn't mind when I go all out. The more I practice with the sword and shield, the more I like them. Sure, I'm always going to be more dangerous using my natural weapons, but the rhythm of a sparring match is an enjoyable exertion. I'm faster than everyone else here, sure, but speed is far from the only thing that decides the winner in our matches. I've only recently started being able to beat our instructor in spars despite the fact that I'm faster and stronger, simply because he was better. He would trick me into overcommitting against feints, perform skillful counters against my attacks, and take advantage of my relatively light weight to force me off balance. I can learn faster than other people, sure. I can perfectly repeat any movement I've already performed. But even that perfection got turned against me, letting the instructor more accurately predict and react to my attacks and defenses. I have to be constantly learning, constantly adapting to spar properly, and I find it quite enjoyable. Of course, Melik is nowhere near that good. Language, I respond, letting a bit of smugness into my tone. Apparently, people always interpret that as a taunt when I say it after winning, and against Melik I'm happy to lean into that. I thought I had you that time, he grunts. Sorry Melik, but I had mana sight on. I could see the repulsion rune you put on my sword tip. But when did you cast? I chuckle, drumming on the inside of my armor with my third and fourth sets of fingers. I have more hands, remember. My arms might be trapped in this chitin junk, but I can still move my fingers. Ugh, how am I supposed to win if I can't even surprise you? That's for you to figure out, I shrug. You're really creative, honestly. I think you're probably more likely to think of something than I am at this point. Well, hopefully you'll get authorized more of it when we graduate. I hedge. Probably a bit, he sighs, stretching a little before settling back into a combat stance. Hopefully it'll be enough. I bet it'll make more difference than you think, I shrug. You're certainly the best at fighting me out of all the trainees. Really? He asks incredulously. Even better than Harvey. He has more combat experience than all of us put together. Harvey is strong, but mostly just because of his talent, I answer. And his talent is mainly useful at destroying structures, deafening people, that sort of thing. He's better with a sword than you are, but your talent is way more useful in a one-on-one fight than his is. I guess that makes sense, Melik acknowledges, clearly cheering up a bit. I'm glad I could improve his mood before beating the stuffing out of him again. I gotta say, Lark, I kind of hate how difficult you are to hate. Huh? I ask, dropping my guard enough for Melik to bop me in the helmet. Ow. Wait, what did you mean? I stagger him with a shield parry and reverse his offensive, managing to get my sword to his throat after only a couple more exchanges. I feel the same way, I answer honestly. But Captain Jelisaveta insists the goal is to not go insane. She believes in me, and I believe in her. Half of us are better fighters than the captain, Melik grunts. What does she know? Maybe if you talk with her more, you can find out, I answer. I'm sure she'd be happy to chat with you, give you some advice. I guess, Melik allows, shrugging his shoulders. She's just weird and intense. Am I not weird and intense? I ask, raising an eyebrow under my helmet. No, you definitely are, Melik answers flatly. That might actually be why the two of you get along so well. I guess. The captain always seemed pleasantly casual, to me. She is casual, Melik agrees. But she's like intense about it. I don't know how to describe this to you, it's just nothing phases her. At all. I feel like I could bring her Bentley's severed head and she'd just kind of glance at it and say, that's not good. I tense up, my whole body suddenly clawing for violence. Don't you dare hurt Bentley, I growl. You're not allowed to hurt anybody other than me, I insist. If that's something you need, you can go until I tell you to stop. Next to us, Xavier suddenly busts out laughing in the middle of his spar and nearly gets smacked in the face. Don't say it like that, Lark, Melik sighs. What? I ask. I thought that was reasonable. What did I do wrong this time? Sex thing. Xavier calls out to me. How is that a sex thing? I protest. Get your asses back to your spars, the instructor orders, and I obey with a scowl. Lady Vesuvius tests the limits of my pain tolerance for scientific reasons all the time. I don't get why it would be a sex thing. So, business as usual, really. What's weird is that I'm starting to think I might actually be able to handle it. After class I decide to head to the bath in the barracks, since it's been at least a few days since the last time I washed off. Even though I can bathe any time I want, the barracks bathhouse is a bit of an awkward place for me. Still, I enter, strip down, rinse off, and enter the women's bathing area. Immediately, the two other people inside stop talking. One is my Valkan law instructor, the other is a middle-aged woman whose face I don't recognize but whose smell I do. She's just one of the many Templars that frequents the base, I presume. Wordlessly, both of them get up and exit the bathing area, leaving me with nothing but my own embarrassment and dread to keep me company. I've managed to make friends here, and I'm thankful for that. But I wouldn't describe myself as well-liked. I'm treated professionally, for the most part, but none of the other women here want to share a bath with a Vrothizo. It hurts, but I can hardly blame them for that. At least I can flex my quills and soak up what little heat the bath has without bothering anyone else. Warm water holds so much more heat than warm air, for whatever reason. I happily start sucking it all down, my body humming with the pleasant vibrations my throat makes whenever I feel content. Mind if I join you, Lark? A familiar voice asks me, causing me to jump in surprise. I thought you might want some company. See Captain. I yelp. Did you already know I was here? I turn to face her, wincing slightly as I notice her arm is a slightly lighter skin tone than the rest of her body, even after all this time. Lark, not to sound creepy, but as long as I'm conscious I know exactly where you are at literally all times, she grunts, stepping into the water. Oh, wow, you got this chilly fast. Sorry. I didn't think anyone else would be coming. I apologize. It's fine, she sighs, sinking into the frigid bath. It doesn't really make much difference to me either way. I nod, but I still fold my spines flat against my back and settle into a proper seat rather than continuing to suck up all the heat from the middle of the pool. I don't think it's creepy, I reassure her. The fact that you know where I am, I mean. It's reassuring. Jelisaveta lets out a dry chuckle. Well, I'm glad we can be weird in complementary ways. Yeah, I agree, and a comfortable silence descends. Captain Jelisaveta has been getting busier and busier as the month goes on, but she still finds time to at least pop by to ask if I need anything every day. Her calm confidence, her optimism, her thoughtfulness, it really does remind me of August. It makes me feel small again. You'll be done with your training soon, Jelisaveta says after a while. Just a couple 10 days. Have you made your decision yet? Well, no, I admit. But 20 days is a lot of time, right? I'm thinking about it. Well, what are your thoughts on it? Blue. I'm mostly just trying not to think about it, if I'm being honest. On one hand, eating someone on purpose fundamentally contradicts the person I want to become, and represents a regression that I'm not sure I can recover from. On the other hand, the people I trust to know right from wrong think I should do it, and Vita tastes really good. I should probably do it, I say quietly. I don't want to. I don't like the idea. But I probably should. The Templars know better than I do. Jelisaveta regards me critically, leaving me unable to even guess what she's thinking about. That's the hope, isn't it? She says quietly. That there are some people who actually know right from wrong. But I still think it's best you decide for yourself. If you choose to follow orders, acknowledge that's still your choice. Okay, I nod. I will. Like I said, I'm still thinking about it. Good. We don't say anything after that, but that's okay. We finish getting clean, dry off, get dressed, and return to work. I meet up with Bentley to do more training. Days pass like this, one after the other, until 20 days becomes 10 and 10 days becomes 1. And of course, plenty of time to think about it becomes no time at all. I move through the exit exams as a nervous wreck, not because any of the exams themselves are challenging but because I still have no idea what to do. Being a Templar means killing people. Killing people is wrong. But protecting people is right, and sometimes you have to kill in order to protect. I mean, I normally just kill monsters, but if people are going to act like monsters, then I don't know. Gah. I'm still freaking out over it in my head when I suddenly find myself standing in front of a Templar general, about to receive my official armor. Aya, how did this happen so quickly? Trainee Lark, the general intones. Your journey with us has perhaps been one of the strangest gifts the Mistwatcher has sent us. Your story is one that many may doubt, but from this day forward let none of them be Templars. Though your past may be riddled with woe, you more than anyone have proven that with enough determination, consideration, and compassion, anyone may claw themselves back into the Watcher's good graces. You are an exemplar not only of your race, but of all people. And it has been determined that you are worthy of the title, Templar. I swallow nervously, trying to find my voice from within the chaos of my mind. Thank you, sir, I managed to choke out. And so, the time has come. Do you, Trainee Lark, hereafter dedicate yourself to be the Watcher's servant in all things, fighting not for yourself but for the greater well-being of his community? I don't know. But what am I going to do? Just say that to his face. I do, I tell him, and the choice is made. Not by thought, but by inertia. Then from now on, you are Templar Lark, he intones. You will report to Inquisitor Captain Jelisaveta for your assignments. Congratulations. He hands me my new, pristine white helmet. I take it, shuffling off to the side so that my fellow trainees can accept the ceremony next. We all graduated, even Bentley, though we certainly had to cram to get him certified at casting. Oh, Watcher, is this right? Did I make the right choice? The 5 of us, myself, Bentley, Harvey, Xavier, and Melik all report to Captain Jelisaveta's new office after the ceremony, decked out in our shiny new gear. Solid white armor, swords, and shields, all made from the strongest chitin-producing beasts in Valka. For once, our captain is also wearing her full uniform, the white chitin of her armor trimmed with the black of the Inquisition and the blue of her rank. She regards us with uncharacteristic imperiousness, as if trying to impose the seriousness of the situation with posture alone. Well, Templars, in 3 days' time you will be deployed on your first mission, she declares. Like all missions, it may be your last. But the lot of you are particularly unlucky, and you're going to be thrust into the thick of something nasty right from the start. I suspect one of you already knows what the mission is. The others glance around with confusion, so I clear my throat and speak up. We're going to kill Vita, I say. A startled surprise settles on the room, Melick and Bentley both tensing with stress. Captain Jelisaveta, however, just snorts derisively. Well, she sighs, I suppose we're certainly going to try. I can't help but bounce excitedly a little in my seat as I wait for lunch to be served. Penelope sent us a ton of spices via teleportation, and even commissioned guides from the Hunters Guild on where most of the spices could be gathered in the forest. I'm normally not much for flavor, food is food, and as long as it fills me up, I'm happy with it. This is compounded by my body's universally dulled sensations ever since I became a living pseudo-revenant all the way back when Nora was still alive. But no matter how much I insisted this was the case, the cooks just took it as a challenge, and they somehow managed to concoct a meal intense enough to bring joy to my taste buds. I'm surprised how much of the former site for serving staff actually stuck with me, even after we made it clear we could teleport them out of here. I'm sure some of it has to do with the fact that Penelope insisted we use a sprinkle of cognomancy on anyone departing to make them forget where our camp is and that Penelope was ever there. But nonetheless, most weren't interested because most of the serving staff is made up of former slaves. If they return to Valka, they'll end up returning to servitude. And after I weeded out the bad apples, the former prisoners apparently aren't so bad. It's honestly kind of amazing how much progress we've made out here in the last couple months. I wish I could even claim to be part of it, but pretty much all I do is make risen and order them to obey other people that actually know what they're doing. Everyone here has a home now, and between my hunts and the foraging efforts of some of the stronger people here, we've never had a day where someone goes hungry. That, more than anything, fills me with pride. We don't have a currency here, everyone just helps everyone with what needs doing. When people disagree firmly enough on what that is, I step in to make the executive decision, but overall the place runs itself quite well. I doubt we'd have much success if our population was much bigger, but for now, this little village is doing great. We're even starting some farming efforts, since between Penelope's biomancy and my undead we can keep the forest at bay pretty reliably. Of course, it'll be months before our initial farms have their first harvest, but still. Your horrifying crime against the culinary arts is ready, Queen Vita, a female voice announces, dripping with amused sarcasm as she plops my highly anticipated serving of stew and bread in front of me on the table. Yes. Hey, don't blame me. I jab back at her. You guys took it on yourselves to make this. That doesn't make it any less horrifying, she insists. We can't even taste test this thing without our mouths catching fire. This young woman is the same one I sorta saved back at Site 4 when one of the prisoners started getting handsy with her. She calls me Queen Vita as a joke, most people don't do that and I don't really expect anyone to. She also has a huge crush on me, whereas I can't even remember her name. One of these days I'll try to direct her towards the other hopeless lesbian in the camp, since everyone seems to be too awkward to just ask whether a woman happens to be interested in them, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. Pain is a surprisingly enjoyable flavor, I agree, shoveling the food into my mouth, where it proceeds to burn delightfully. Never would have expected that, honestly. Perhaps it's a side effect of dating Lady Vesuvius, Excorio manages to say without a hint of sarcasm. I don't let her torture me, I clarify. She's already a bit uncomfortably horny without anything to get her excited. A few awkward and amused coughs resound from around the table, and I smirk as I continue to eat. I miss sex, Penta complains with a sigh, slowly absorbing the contents of a jar full of forest bugs. Many of the former Noranaozoids nod their heads solemnly. Aren't literally all of you virgins? Nora asks. She's not eating anything, of course, but she enjoys floating behind me and hanging out with everyone. Maybe technically, but most of our hosts weren't, one of the Nora answers. We know what it's like. I was never and likely will never be granted the honor of copulating with one of the immortal mothers, to kill from above in tones. However, my male partners are dead. I am willing to confirm that I miss them. Oh, shit, I'm sorry, dude. Your apologies are welcome, but unnecessary. They died slaughtering the people of Verdantop, as was their honorable duty. Oh, cool. I am willing to confirm that fulfilling the purpose of our existence is cool, and express reassurance that I will likely perish before my duties require me to slay you. We may remain friends. The Nora respond with various acknowledgements and awkward thank yous. They're a lot bigger nowadays, having substantially increased in mass since we finished reanimating all of them. A few humans also adapted to oozoid bodies fairly well, but the vast majority of them had similar reactions to Angelion, and I'm currently still storing them inside me. Though hopefully we'll have a safer storage method ready soon. I return to eating my heavenly meal, but soon a prickle at the edge of my senses distracts me. Frowning, I focus on it and find human souls. Human souls in the forest, huh? Pretty strong ones, too. Wait, there's more. I feel my eyes widen as more and more people start walking into my sensory range, a literal army of no, wait. I'm being an idiot. This is an army, but not the army. The Templars are coming for me. Shit, I hiss, quickly gulping down the rest of the stew in one go and using the bread to clean the bowl before downing it. It's time. They're looking for us. Excorio stands up, her gaze furious. Templars, she hisses in confirmation. I nod. Yep. A lot of them. They really pulled out all the stops, like Penelope said they would. They're sweeping the forest, heading this way. We will slay them for you, Excorio hisses. You will stay here and protect the camp, I insist. Or the town, I guess. And if the Templars make it here, you surrender. Understand? Vita, she growls, but I cut her off. I'll retreat if things get too hot, I promise. But they don't know what they're messing with. They won't make it here. Retreat if things get too hot, Penta muses. Was that a Galdra the Annihilator pun? No. I grind my teeth slightly, Nora floating behind me as I storm off towards Theodora. She's in her research warehouse, as usual, so I head straight there and let myself in. Tell me you're ready, I snap at her. I'm ready, she answers automatically, then grasps the side of her head and shakes it. No, I mean I'm not ready. Not quite. We could maybe do some test storage, but I'm only about 90% confident that. It's going to have to do, I interrupt her. We're out of time. Templars are coming, and I need to intercept them. Are your anima storage units going to be more or less safe than me fighting an army prepped for soul killing? It will be done, I promise, and she leads me into a room of horrors. Theodora's mutated rat incubators have come a long way since the first time I saw them. Their initial phase existed as a prototype for storing soulless bodies, but now they've been reworked into the opposite, a body in which to store dead souls where the Mistwatcher can't sense them, in the same way my own body does so. Our solution turned out to be relatively simple: make a body tangible to souls, and the Mistwatcher won't mess with any souls inside it. But the obvious problem with making a body tangible to souls is the fact that souls can't enter a body that's tangible to them. I can make my body tangible or intangible to souls at will, mixing and matching the two however I like in whatever configurations I like, which is why my body can hold them. I can just let them inside, then seal my body up to hold them in place. Our ultimate solution is a bit grotesque, mainly because we've been rushing the result in anticipation of having to use it ASAP. Penelope's soul tangibility spell is either completely on or completely off, so to emulate the way my body stores souls we had to create the body itself in such a way that it allows souls to be let inside. And thus, all around me I see the bloated, capacious bodies of tortured rats that have been reshaped so that they have a vast, hollow center on the inside. They have an entrance to that fleshy cavern now, but once I fill them with souls they will be sealed up, only to be cracked open when I return. This way, even if something happens to me, Angelion will be safe. And so will the hundreds of other people inside me, I guess. As hastily as we can without making mistakes, I fill up the living receptacles and let Theodora use biomancy to seal them shut. Okay, well everything looks good so far, Theodora says nervously. So I'll keep them all safe in your place. Good luck out there, Vita. Come back safe. I'll do my best, I answer, nodding. She pulls me in for a hug, which I reciprocate. My heart keeps beating faster the closer I get to going out and facing the Templar army. There are hundreds of them. I can't believe they're committing this many troops against me while ours is running around. I guess it's good that they are, though, because it should mean Penelope's part of the plan will go off without a hitch. She's probably gotten her half of things started if the Templars are this deep into the forest already. So I have to do my part, too, and I have to protect all the former prisoners and slaves here in the town I somehow helped make. A queen has to treat her subjects as they deserve to be treated, and mine only deserve the best. I exit the soul storage workshop, finding myself face to face with To Kill From Above, who has been waiting for me. Athanatos of skin, he greets me. I have no idea what it means, but from his soul I know he intends it as an address of great reverence. I wish to face our mutual enemy with you, O human queen. I raise an eyebrow at him. There are hundreds of Templars out there, I tell him. And I have hundreds of undead. There's no need for you to risk your life. I'll be fine without you. He dips his head in acknowledgement. No queen ever needs us. It is not a matter of need. Okay, fine, but do I want you? I counter. What are you even going to do out there? There are many tall trees in the forest, he informs me mirthfully, so I shall kill them from above. I smirk. Alright, he got me with that one. But I suppose he's been pretty open about the fact that he inevitably wants to wipe intelligent life off of the island in order to claim it for his superiors, so I don't really care that much if he dies. Sure, I tell him. Welcome aboard the Templar murder wagon. Are we bringing a wagon? He asks. No. A few more people all try to invite themselves onto my battlefield, but I firmly turn them all down. The only people that need to die today are Templars. To that end, all the revenants I'm bringing along fall in that category as well. Manus and Ice Guy are going to be powerful backup, and the other Templar undead are all too happy to fight against their former allies as well. I've assigned them all squads of dregs and risen to command, since that should drastically increase their effectiveness. Of course, there is one exception to my Templar Revenants only rule. But she's invincible, and she makes me invincible, so bringing her along is kind of important. Gearing up, I make sure my new armor is fitting snugly and don my mask, the one Penelope had made for me years ago that mimics the appearance of my soul. No skin should be showing, otherwise, Nora can't protect that part of me. Kick their asses, Mom. Vitamin cheers, and I give her one last squeeze before heading out. I'd have to be in an awfully weird situation if I'm resorting to kicking people, I muse. But I'll see what I can do for you. She grins brightly, and I begin my march. Even after all my prep time, the Templars are still quite a few miles away. Miles of forest, so their progress is exceptionally slow. I almost wish I hadn't cleared out so many monsters around our town since it makes approaching us drastically less dangerous, but I doubt they would have taken more than a couple dozen casualties on the way here anyway. It wouldn't have been worth purposefully keeping the surrounding area more deadly. Besides, they have a High Templar with them. Just the one, as far as I can tell, which strikes me as odd. I don't recognize them, which means they're probably High Templar Arden the Iron Soul. Feeling neither male nor female to me, Arden's soul is like a massive desert, warm, dry, vast, full of hidden life but teeming primarily with death and danger. If this ends up as a battle, they're my first target. And while it almost certainly will go to battle, I have to at least try to prevent a slaughter. One last chance. When we're about 1,000 yards away from each other, I send mana down my tendrils and start shaping it into a sound creation spell loud enough for their whole army to hear. 1,000 yards may as well be 1,000 miles in the forest considering how much dense foliage is between us, but I'm fairly certain they know I'm getting close. A magical projection of my voice rings out from above them, as I speak my words. "That's an impressive army you've got there," I intone, the words rumbling through the forest and shaking my enemies. "But if you're looking for ours, you're going the wrong way. He's not here." I feel them all stop in their tracks, their march halted. Good. Now for the tricky bit, hearing their response. Remote listening spells are way harder than remote projection spells and they take a lot of focus, but mine thankfully seems to work as I catch the words Arden shouts back at the sky. "And what would be the right way to find him, then?" they respond. Good. Okay, they're interested. "I don't know, but it's nowhere within a 5-mile radius. And he's not in Skyhope either, or at least he wasn't when I snuck in to check. If he gets anywhere within the same city as me, I'll know." "I take it there's no love between liches, then?" Arden asks. "It has nothing to do with him being a lich," I grunt. "It has to do with the fact that a lot of people I care about don't want anything to do with him. I don't remember the so-called Ars Crisis, but people I trust do and they say he's bad news." I take a deep breath. "This is it. I wouldn't have any problem helping you defeat him," I say. "We both agree he's the greater evil. This doesn't have to come to bloodshed." I let myself smile a bit as surprise and consideration ripple through the Templar ranks. Good, okay. They're thinking about it. Most of them, anyway. But for whatever damn reason, Arden speaks up before they get much time to do that. "You seek to cut a deal rather than answer for your crimes?" Still, I grit my teeth and let that response go unsaid, trying to restrain myself to being as diplomatic as possible. "If you want to think of it that way, sure," I project. "I just want the people I care about to be safe, same as all of you. If that means fighting Ars Rainier, I'll fight Ars Rainier." "You'd fight your own father," the response challenges. I almost resist the urge to roll my eyes before remembering none of them can see me, so I just do it. "I barely even know the man," I explain patiently. "He is in no way my father. The only father I've ever known lives happily in Skyhope, practices no animancy, and spends his life helping the needy." "But you do know him," the High Templar counters. "You know him from when you personally set him free, fought alongside him to kill dozens of good men and women, before ultimately releasing him on the world. He was an ally of convenience to you, just like you're proposing with us. We will not fall for your capricious deceit. You, Necromancer Vita, are an enemy of the Church and State. And we will have justice for what you've done." And just like that, the Templars are against me again. Damn it. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Why are things always like this? "So that's it, then?" I hiss out. "You're just going to piss your lives away fighting someone that offers you peace while the real villains wait comfortably for you to lose. This won't end well for you. You'll all die for nothing. You think we've come all this way for threats to cow us now? Why is it that people always interpret my honest assessment of a situation as a threat?" I grumble at them. "Turn around and leave. Those that retreat or surrender will not be slain. But those that continue encroaching on my territory will die." I wish I could say I'm surprised when every single one of them starts marching forward. I sigh. Fine. I'm disappointed, but I knew this was probably how it had to be. I order my army forward, gnashing my physical and spiritual teeth with frustration. Arden comes first, followed by every single Inquisitor I can sense. Considering how many people have a soul shield spell on, they really didn't make it difficult for me to find them. I'll have to scythe through most of the army to get to them, so I guess I'll save Jelisaveta for last. She's here, because of course she is, alongside Lark, Bentley, and that Melik kid from Lisha village, I think. Damn, okay. Well, the hope now is that when all the annoying loudmouths are dead, Jelisaveta can convince the survivors to retreat. Because if not, it's gonna be only her again. And judging by the dread in her soul, I think she knows that. Good. Now then, dealing with Arden. They're a long-ranged powerhouse, capable of annihilating huge areas all at once. But Penelope is fairly sure those areas have to emanate from Arden themselves, not created in arbitrary locations. The fact that I sense Arden at the front of the army supports this. An Arden that could create a death zone detached from their own body would hide in the back behind cover, while an Arden that destroys everything in a line between them and their target has to stand at the front or hit their own allies when firing forward. So the safest place for me to fight Arden is therefore obviously in the middle of the Templar army. Full charge ahead, I order. Manus, I want you to throw me. What? Pick me up over the tree canopy and throw me as hard as you can into the middle of their formation, I order. They won't be able to see me coming until it's too late. Gooey, go kill. Kill. Gooey chirps excitedly, blasting off through the forest. Kill me. What a good boy, I coo after him, feeling Manus' talent lift me into the sky until suddenly, it flickers and starts to fade. I fall back down to the ground as a rush of wind. No, it's not wind. Mistwatcher mana blows like a gale at my back, the pull too strong for any of my revenants to take it into their own souls. It all condenses at a single point, or more accurately, a single person. Arden the Iron Soul. But why? They shouldn't have any idea where we are. Are they just going to blind fire? Why would they? Flyers up. I scream. Everyone that can get off the ground, do it now. Manus, take my mana. I shove tentacles into my Inquisitor Revenant, pumping him with my own essence as he hastily lifts me and as many other people as he can high above the treetops. And then the world turns gold. A brilliant beam of yellow rips through the forest below me, a cylinder of annihilation at least 15 feet thick. And in barely a second, I watch it sweep, tearing through the forest in a wide arc, everything it touches obliterated by raw, concentrated power. When I can see anything other than the blinding flash of energy, I realize there is nothing below me. No trees. No animals. No undead. Just scoured stone. A shockwave hits us, mana and air rushing in to fill the void that is left as I gape open-mouthed at where nearly my entire army had once been. Right. That's what a High Templar is. I somehow forgot. What are you waiting for? I growl at Manus. Throw me in there. Nora, go cause chaos. What? But Vita, Nora starts to protest. With their own troops now in their line of fire, I sprint directly towards Arden as my many flying undead descend to join the fight. Ordering them to converge on the High Templar, I feel that telltale rush of mana start converging on them. Shit, already. Arden can already fire that thing again. Are they going to fire it at their own troops? I suppose, from Arden's perspective, it's nearly impossible to tell whether or not the Templars in my general direction are their troops. Or maybe they're just that callous. Either way, I need to move now. I perform an evasive zigzag, bodily lifting up one of my new Templar revenants and hurling him at Iron Soul, but I'm too slow. Their hand comes up, and they fire. It's nowhere near as massive and powerful a blast as the first one, only about 5 feet in diameter, but I still watch it obliterate every person still standing between Arden and myself as it makes its way towards me. I swerve to dodge out of the way, but instinctively feel I'm not going to make it. Panicking, I concentrate as much mana as I physically can into my own hand, holding it out in front of me so the blast hits it first. My mana fights the incoming beam of death for only a split second before being overpowered, but the resulting explosion hurls me head over heels out of the pathway of Mana Blast. Holy shit, I can't believe I pulled that off. I survived. Then I notice a splatter of blood eject itself from the stump of my shoulder, and the pain hits. It's completely gone. Hand, arm, and every bit of my soul that threaded inside them. I bite down on a shriek of agony, closing off my broken blood vessels and continuing my rush towards Arden as they stagger in surprise. Tendrils lash out at them as I finally get in range, but balls of concentrated mana suddenly coat the Iron Soul's arms and legs, allowing them to physically block the parts of me reaching out to yank out that massive, gorgeous soul in a flurry of martial arts style blocks and parries. Not today, Necromancer. Arden bellows. Not ever. The Templars have weathered worse. We prepared for you. Now, I hiss. Arden's arrogant ass actually takes a second to realize I'm not talking to them, and by then it's too late. The High Templar's head splatters like a watermelon dropped off a cliff, crushed into goop by two massive, invisible paws. Ha! All that offensive power, still trapped in the body of a weak, fragile human. We prepared for you. I had nearly 2 months to myself, asswipe. I'll admit, the Templars figured out some terrifying tricks. Over 50,000 pounds of flying, undead lizard with a stealth-based kinemancy talent. Invisible body, silent flight. And destroying the trees just gave it all the room it needed to maneuver around with impunity. It's easily my most powerful risen, though it's not quite smart enough to be a revenant. Dragons are terrifyingly dangerous animals, but still animals. They're good at following orders, though. Pulling out a shard, I spear Arden's soul and bend it to my whim before placing it back in their now headless body. Time to turn that power onto my side. I open my mouth to give the order when I feel a sudden flash of power from the High Templar's armor. A rune activates, and Arden's corpse detonates in a massive explosion that not only flings me through the air but obliterates the soul I just then rooted inside it. Then, one after the other, self-destruct runes start to go off on all of my newly converted revenants, reducing their bodies and therefore their souls to dust. Fine, then. I howl. You want to destroy your own souls that badly? Then you're all food. Nora. Shrieking with frustration, I burst through the army once again, their formations scattering as they try to get distance from each other to minimize the death I cause simply by moving. It doesn't matter. As my scythe spins back into my remaining hand, decapitating everyone unfortunate enough to be in the way, we reap a bloody path from Inquisitor to Inquisitor, tearing through their anti-animancy experts like children. I feast on more and more of the fallen, feeling a tingle in the stump of my shoulder as a fleshy tentacle grows to replace my arm. I'll admit, this fight isn't going how I wanted it to at all. But between myself, Nora, Gui, and my remaining undead, there isn't much beyond a High Templar that I think can stop us, and I just took down the only one on the field. Though I suppose that does beg a question that has been nagging me since the start of this engagement. Well then, everyone. I announce, drawing attention to myself with a single clap of my hands. Are we all ready to purge some heretics? Sky and Capita level unamused looks at me, presumably out of some combination of stress and stupidity. My joke is hilarious, obviously, because the three of us are going to wipe out the Inquisition, an organization dedicated entirely to hunting and stopping heretics of our particular persuasion, but are themselves heretics of precisely that persuasion. It's an amusing reversal on the usual heretic-purging heretic dynamic. Nugas titters amiably, at least, but feeling satisfied about that also pushes up a well of self-revulsion that burns like a hemorrhaged stomach lining. Oh well. We're in too deep for self-doubt now. I can lament my terrible decisions in a few hours, after I've slaughtered nearly 100 of my own city's people. So it's time then? Sky asks bluntly, rising up from where he's been lounging on my couch with a languid, telekinetic shift of position. It's hard not to appreciate his strength and grace, even with how awful his personality happens to be. It is indeed, I confirm. The Templar army has left the city, Galdra and Arden with them. I was just informed by Margaret that Vida has left to meet them on the field of battle. Our window is open. Let us make Skyhope a more welcoming place to all of us. Ugh, there it is. What a simpleton. Does he really think I need to be told that he'll be angry with me if I betray him? Oh, boo-hoo. Of course, I do intend to betray him, since he's a terrorist and a serial murderer and Vida doesn't like him. Capita will also have to die as a result, or else she'll try to avenge him, but with luck I can collect their bodies and souls to give as a gift to Vida when we see each other next. They can be happy together in the afterlife while simultaneously being far less of a loose end. If not for the baby, I think I'd be morally in the clear regarding murdering them, at least from an optics point of view, but the thing about the baby is that I just don't care. It doesn't even have a working brain yet, and this will hardly be the first abortion I perform. Still, as inane as his comment is, I do still have to address it. Let's see, deflect with humor, reassure with logic. No, he's not a logical sort of man. Reassure with emotion. He glowers at me, as if trying to find the tell which will show him the lie or truth to my words. Please. I fool people with sensory talents, not to mention literal empaths, on a daily basis. More importantly, I haven't given him any reason to believe I'm interested in permanently silencing the man. We've been nothing but amicable for years now. One might wonder, therefore, why he's choosing now of all times to threaten me and treat me with suspicion, but this is more or less how Sky is all the time. There is no need for this, Capita chastises, patting him reassuringly on the arm with one hand while her other hand holds her third hand from her second body. Goodness, that sure is the kind of sentence that tends to exist when Capita is around. You are stressed. Do not be grumpy at Spiky Bubbles. Sky pouts the way he usually does when Capita calls him out on being a moron, which I have to admit always makes me smirk a little. I can't deny they're good at managing each other's flaws. There's a certain appeal to that. I often worry Vida enables me too much, but I can hardly blame her for my own failings. The solution to my problems is not to have someone constantly there to call me out on them, it's simply to be better. I take it you're both ready, then? I ask pleasantly. May we scour the unwanted monsters from the world? Capita agrees happily, holding out her hands for Sky and I to take. I almost do, before remembering there's one more thing I should see to. Nugas? I ask her. Stay in contact with Margaret, would you? If I'm not back in the next few hours, help her finish the teleporter and abandon this place. I don't want you to be stuck here alone. Of course, my lady, she answers, bowing. Though please try to stay alive. I doubt I can handle being broken a second time. Suppressing a shudder, I nod and take Capita's hand. I'll do my best, Nugas, I assure her, and then we're somewhere else entirely. I must admit, I am endlessly jealous of Capita's teleportation talent. The kinds of things I could do with instant, variable range trivial cost group teleportation just ga. It's wasted on this woman, though I suppose that's hardly her fault. Ours saw something valuable, took it before anyone else could, and then played with it until it broke. It's a shame, but I can hardly lament something so far outside my control. The three of us appear just outside one of the temples with an inquisitorial branch underneath it. We're dressed in fully concealing clothing, although this is entirely for my benefit. Sky and Capita's talents will be easily identified by any witnesses, and the odds of not leaving at least one witness during the day are next to none. It's necessary, however, the temples are warded against teleportation, meaning we have no choice but to appear outside and have Sky make us a door to our destination. He does so, flying directly through the outer wall as if it was made of sand, and the operation begins. Inquisitorial branches are, by tradition, created underneath main temples, barracks, and other such areas. I've been having Lynn stalk and record the movements of inquisitors for months, cataloging every publicly known and secret inquisitorial base in the city. We move quickly towards the first one, entering the temple and letting Sky plunge a hole in the floor as Capita and I combine our talents. Specifically, I create a heavy concentration of brutally efficient airborne diseases and purposefully allow Capita to suck them into her concentrated air blast. When Sky returns from the new tunnel to the inquisitorial branch, Capita fires the plague bomb. Descending down to the top floor of the inquisitorial base, it explodes, spreading deadly, invisible miasma throughout the area. Infected individuals will die rapidly and painlessly, their hearts failing after a few breaths. The infection won't self-replicate, and after an hour or so it will be entirely gone. A handful of inquisitors out on field duty or taking the day off will survive, but otherwise this entire base will very shortly be dead. The weight of the disease particles themselves should prevent it from going upstairs and killing non-targets, but I suspect there will be a few unwanted casualties one way or another. We produce and fire a few more plague bombs at varying depths while Sky creates holes in other parts of the base, where we repeat the process a few times before teleporting away to hit the next location less than a minute later. In many ways, things are relatively quiet on Capita's and my end. Sky suffers the brunt of Templar resistance, and even when he comes back injured by the odd thermomancer or kinemancer that gets a pot shot in before going down, it's never severe. Our plan is quite elegant in its simplicity. After all, speed is our ally, and while each base we hit is better prepared than the last as word of an attack arrives before we do, the majority of combat-capable Templars are still much too far away to turn around, trudge back through the forest, and intercept us. So far, everything is going to plan. There are, of course, downsides and risks to this plan. Killing the Inquisitors with a plague runs the obvious risk of getting me implicated. I'm confident that the evidence to prove I was involved won't extend farther than, they were killed with a disease and that is Lady Vesuvius' talent, but after my stunt 2 years ago it's highly plausible that a number of unscrupulous biomancers have started looking into disease-based offensive techniques, particularly Siguldan biomancers, which should make for an extremely effective scapegoat. Will the Church believe my lies? No, almost certainly not. Will they be able to disprove them in a court of law? Also almost certainly not. And they'll know that. This still puts me at a major disadvantage as it destroys a lot of the political goodwill I've acquired, but if I do not expend it then for what reason did I acquire it? All of that goes out the window, of course, if I am caught red-handed. Then the game is up. So Sky's aggression and Capita's mobility are key to this plot. Without a High Templar waiting in the wings, we should be too fast and too powerful to counter. And if some High Templar is around, we can simply escape. It's not a foolproof plan, but I'm confident it's good enough to come out on top. I just need to be able to improvise against whatever unexpected problem will inevitably appear out of nowhere. There are, fortunately, hardly any people capable of reliably avoiding the threat of my diseases, and Vita is distracting all of them. As things continue to go according to plan, the slaughter of unsuspecting Inquisitors starts to feel awfully routine. I'm not personally involved in much of the nitty-gritty, I just craft my plagues and let them wistfully drop down into freshly bored holes before being blasted through the air, into the eyes, nostrils, and lungs of dozens of animancers. We are quick, we are thorough, and the corpses pile up faster than any organized resistance against us does. In less than 10 minutes, Capita, Sky, and I have done it. Every target area has been cleared out. I estimate over 80 Inquisitors have fallen against either my disease or Sky's brute offensive, slightly less than expected but more than enough to accomplish my goal as long as Vita doesn't die fighting Galdra or Arden. Well, die permanently, I mean. Either way, we're done here. I nod at Capita and Sky, making the hand sign for extraction. I haven't spoken since starting this operation because of the aforementioned risk of witnesses. They glance at each other, nod, and take my hand. We disappear, but we don't reappear in my home. Or, to my knowledge, anywhere near it. Stone walls and flooring frames a modest living room, complete with a couch, a fireplace, and various expensive bits of furniture. My initial assumption is that I'm now in a modest home in the rich district, though the sounds outside indicate we may not be in Skyhope at all. Well then. It would appear that I am being betrayed. That's somewhat of an inconvenience. A bubble of indignant fury starts simmering in the back of my mind at the sheer indignity of being betrayed by Sky before I could betray him, but now is not the time for indulgences. I'll need to gather as much information as I'm able before killing Sky and Capita. I doubt they intend to kill me. After all, they wouldn't have brought me here if they were just going to blast my head off and be done with it, and they should know they have no way to contain the plagues my corpse would unleash. As I open my mouth to inquire about their goals, however, a door behind me opens, and a very unexpected individual makes an entrance that, ironically, chills me to my bones. "Well, hello there, Vesuvius," Galdra the Annihilator drawls, air quivering around her as the stone below her feet glows red. "Nice place, isn't it?" I don't respond, instead sending every heat-resistant plague I've designed directly at her. All of them are incinerated, not even a single cell of disease reaching her body through the blistering heat that hovers around her skin. Shit. Thermomancy is not, traditionally, a school of magic known for its defense. Only at absurdly high levels of power can practitioners freeze the air into shields of ice, and using fire to block attacks seems inherently absurd until you reach a level of utter ridiculousness where you can wrap your body in enough heat to incinerate anything that gets close without burning yourself in the process. Galdra's magic resistance is too high, so I can't create diseases directly inside her body. I can cause airborne plagues to spontaneously appear around her body, but the problem with heat-resistant things, plagues or otherwise, is that there is only a certain level of resistance that can exist. They say a dragon's scales can be dipped in molten stone without so much as warming up, but Galdra doesn't just turn rocks to liquid, she turns them into gas. Nothing physical is going to get through her shield intact, and certainly nothing biological. What other options are available to me? I could try to brute force her magic resistance, but she'd be able to feel that and would have time to kill me if I started to succeed. That makes all animancy I know useless. The kinemancy spells I know are purely for subtlety, and any kineticism I attempt runs into the problem of magic resistance or heat shield, same as my plagues. Her annihilation barrier is being kept so close to her body it prevents me from creating plagues in some hypothetical air pocket between the shield and her body. This is bad, but it presents an opportunity in that a large enough object, moving with enough force, could potentially make contact with her before being destroyed and successfully confer momentum. I'm not close enough to use my own body for the task, but with kineticism I could. "Stop channeling or you die," Galdra barks. "Make any movements other than verbal responses, and you die." Flames spring up in a box around me and I go still. Shit. Slowly, I start performing a cancel command, making sure she can see it so she thinks I'm following her orders. On the inside, however, I use my internal casting organs to act. I cry out as a sudden burst of heat removes one of my fingers from existence. Galdra isn't in her armor, for whatever reason, dressed instead in civilian clothes. This allows me to see her sneer. "I didn't say cancel it. Stop channeling now, or you die." 3. 2. There we go, that's much better, Galdra laughs as I glare up at her scarred face. "I was hoping you were smart enough to follow orders, Vesuvius. I'm disappointed you went straight for the throat rather than bantering, of course, but also begrudgingly impressed." I ignore her, my attention focused on my former comrades. Seeing mixed expressions on Capita and Sky's faces, I can't help but let a little anger spill over. Are they feeling sorry for me? I'm still going to kill them, but since I can't do it now I have to at least salt their wounds. "I would not have a lot of things if not for monsters," Capita answers quietly. "The sister you made us brings us joy. But we will never, ever forgive you for her creation." Is this seriously about Nugas? I snap at her. "Sky," Galdra snaps, pulling out a metal collar. He floats forward and takes it from her, and I grind my teeth in frustration as the front of my flame cage opens up to let him levitate it around my throat, snapping it shut. There are things I could try to prevent this, ways I could potentially get out of it. But all of them involve pitting myself in a battle of speed and reflexes against Galdra the Annihilator, who drastically outstrips me in combat experience, and I do not doubt her death threats for a moment. Risking my own life simply isn't a gamble I'm willing to take. As long as I live, however, I can wait for a better opportunity. I assume this is one of those collars that will knock me unconscious if I channel mana. I choke out, precious blood still seeping through my fingers. It's not a lethal wound, but it's a very serious one, even for me. Of course not, Galdra grunts. It paints all four walls of this room with your brain if you channel mana. Blows your entire damn head to bits. Do you think I'm an idiot? I open my mouth to respond, but she lifts a finger to cut me off. We're leaving now, Sky announces. Galdra sends him a look that contains the slightest hint of fury before she schools it back to amused glee. Of course, she allows. And as we agreed, you will not be followed. Really? I growl at him. After everything I've done for you? I like you more than her, Vesuvius, Sky admits, shrugging. But I trust you less. Embrace your love for me, if you are still able, Capita says softly. Goodbye, O artist of flesh. The two of them vanish, leaving me seething. Galdra chuckles, leaning a bit closer to taunt me. They read you like a book, didn't they, she taunts. You wouldn't be this mad, otherwise. Oh, nothing much, she coos, grinning as she paces around my burning prison. I just heard you had a very well thought out plan to destroy and replace the Inquisition, and I thought to myself, hey, that's pretty great idea. The old woman's scarred face breaks out in a mad grin that reminds me just a bit too much of what I've seen in mirrors. Leaning down close, the heat of her spell scours the mask from my face in a painful burst of fire right before she whispers to me. So I decided to take it. I refrain from outwardly emoting, even as I feel her flames scar my face. A High Templar wants to lead the Inquisition? I ask flatly. And here I thought sin was generally considered a bad thing among the devout. Ah, well, that's the thing, Galdra drawls, returning to pacing about the room. The Mist Watcher is God. And I've always considered it my duty as a Templar to make sure that God stays happy. And while the scriptures insist that O.L. Misty isn't very happy with animancers, I can't help but notice that there's 0 recorded instances of a perception event occurring as a result of animancy. It sure looks from the outside that the Watcher doesn't really care. I allow myself a slight smirk, even as pain shoots through my face as a result of my fresh wounds. Why, Galdra, are you perchance claiming that the scriptures may have been written by human hands and do not actually represent the divine commandments of a higher being? I'm saying, Galdra presses, that it's noteworthy because there are things the Mistwatcher does care about. Flight. Mass graves. Metal. It's hard to predict when these things will cause a perception event, but it's not impossible to predict. There's a method to the madness, even if we haven't fully cracked it. But there is one type of perception event, the rarest type, that always warrants a response: altitude. Fly above the highest islands, and you get smote for that hubris. Every single time. And when you think about it, that's the common denominator. The only thing the Mistwatcher really cares about is that we stay here. It wants us to prosper, to grow, and to die all on these little islands. And that bothers me, because any time someone tells me not to go somewhere it means that there's something there. Pursing my lips, I keep my tone neutral. An interesting theory, I admit. Though I'm afraid I don't see how metal is at all related to whether or not we continue to stick around and generate souls. Ah, yes, the soul-eating thing you and your girlfriend believe, Galdra muses, tapping her chin. Honestly, it's an interesting idea. You really might be onto something, but I haven't been an animancer long enough to have an informed opinion on the matter. Metal, though I forget you're young and ignorant. Let's just say that if you saw the thing that made Skyhope crater, you'd understand. Shame we took it apart. Well. There's a lot to digest there, certainly. She knows of the relationship between Vita and myself, and through that it can be implied she knows everything Capita and Sky knows about us. But the most pressing and terrifying of all of them demands my attention before I can dig into the problematic implications. You already know animancy, I breathe, not needed to feign my increasing horror. That's why I'm being kept alive. Oh, don't sound so scared, you big baby, Galdra sneers. From what I hear, I'm pretty sure you deserve what I'm about to do to you. If you're a good girl, I might even heal your wounds when I'm done. She steps forwards, her hands moving in a spell pattern I recognize to mounting terror. If she just gets close enough I might be able to physically overpower her, but she's not even planning to touch me. She has power in spades, and can likely burn through my magic resistance even from a distance. What should I do? I can't just let myself end up as a sniveling slave. Now I'm not totally heartless, Vesuvius, Galdra drawls, magic clawing into my soul as her spell completes. You have your out. If you'd rather die, just start to channel, or use that metal you have implanted in your body, and that'll be the end of you. I can respect that, you know. Preferring to live by your principles than see yourself warped into something you hate. I need a plan to deal with this, some way to bring myself back from the brink. Animancy is not flawless, and Galdra is a relatively new user of it. Whatever mistake she makes when she tries to reshape my soul, I'll find it. I'll grow myself anew. I won't lose to this woman. Of course, I'm saying that almost entirely as a courtesy, because I know someone like you would never even consider killing herself, Galdra continues smugly. You love yourself so damn much you think you should be immortal so you can be in charge forever. You're one of those annoying sorts of sociopaths that can't really get how much better off the world would be without you. But hey, let's try to fix some of that, shall we? That is unnecessary, I hiss, resisting the urge to start casting something as the sneering woman invades the core of my being. All of this is unnecessary. I can see what you're capable of, I see that you've won. I'll tell you everything you need to know. Shit. Shit. Okay, I need more information. Disguise it as banter. Distract her. Form a plan of action. How did you even learn animancy, anyway? I ask. I feel like that's the sort of thing they screen quite heavily for Templars. Heh, that's a funny story, actually, Galdra chuckles. So when I tried to kill that little godling runt, she apparently attached some shit to my soul that kept trying to gnaw away at me. The Inquisitors had to whip something up to remove them, and just kept me in the room with them while they did all sorts of animancy experiments on me. It's like they thought I couldn't just watch their hands. Dumbass. Well, I imagine they didn't expect you to betray their deity, I comment dryly. And you're that solution? I press. She laughs. Nah, not really, she shrugs. I'm a wretched bastard and I know it. But someone has to actually kill liches around here, and it's not going to be that soft little Vrothizo girl. Which is why you're going to tell me everything you know about how to do that. You called Vita a godling, I point out. Yet you want to kill her. What part of anything I've ever said about gods makes you think I want another one? Galdra asks. Now talk, Vesuvius. As much as it pains me to admit, I've been outmaneuvered. Galdra had been moving what I thought were my pawns all along. If she could see through my ruses worse, if Sky could fool me for as long as he did, then what hope do I really have for beating her? It might be best to save myself the trouble of resistance and bank on cooperation being rewarded. She did seem to let Capita and Sky go, so if I just help her enough then perhaps I can. Yes, that makes sense. I should just help her. Then I know. No, wait. Watcher's eyes, I breathe. Is this what it's like? Galdra bursts out laughing. Holy shit, she answers. Wait, so after all the shit you've done to people, this is the first time anyone has cast animancy on you? Did you never even go in and fiddle around with your own soul, just to test things out? So I should probably give up hope, is what she's saying. Honestly, at this point it doesn't seem like terrible advice. I can already feel my thoughts slipping away from my goals and into whatever she wants. Although, when you get down to it, how valuable are my goals? The immortality as well, that's important. And I love Vita, I want to help her. But I wait. I love Vita. Right? I love her. No. Every ounce of bravado I have left falls away in a single moment. Please stop, I beg her. Not my love. Don't take that away. Well, valid request, but I'm going to have to decline, Galdra dismisses. You'll have a hard time telling me all of her weaknesses otherwise. So, Vesuvius, what do you know about killing liches? Galdra asks soothingly. What kind of bodies can Vita take? Galdra asks. We're not sure, I admit. This is an innocent enough question, after all. Fake cooperation. That was the plan, right? We know Vita changed bodies once already, but it seemed to make her lose her memories. Did she prepare that new body in advance? We don't know, but it's unlikely, I admit. Surely she already knew that. So can she just take any body? Galdra asks. Anywhere in the world? Probably not, I tell her, feeling the momentum build as I explain. It's oddly satisfying, in a way that most things aren't. She can probably only inhabit bodies within tentacle range that's about 12 feet at her time of death. It's possible she can extend this range by granting herself momentum somehow, but we have no reason to believe she's capable of traveling at the speeds ours is able to. Ours most likely uses magic of some kind to pull his soul into whatever prepared body he desires, but Vita has no such capabilities. So we could just throw her off the island. Galdra prompts. I believe that would get her out of our hair indefinitely, but it likely wouldn't kill her in a permanent way. She might be able to survive such a fall, and if not, it's very possible she could simply possess her own body. So she can make herself a revenant. I nod happily, really starting to enjoy chattering about this. It's nice. I normally don't have anyone to talk to who's both interested and not mind-controlled by the subject in question. Oh yes, both living and dead bodies are likely to be possible for her to possess, though it's highly probable that, if a corpse she is possessing is destroyed, that she will also be destroyed. Or at the very least, heavily damaged. If I were trying to kill Vita, the ideal way would be to do it twice, once by killing her body and forcing her to repossess it, then again by completely annihilating that body while it is a revenant. This should disintegrate most, if not all, of her soul. Well, that's good to know, thank you, Galdra praises me. While we're at it, I've noticed the runt can disrupt targeted spells near her. Could you explain how that works? Galdra, I call after her, my mind simultaneously fuzzier and clearer than I think it has ever been. I'd be interested in continuing this, when you get back. I've always wondered if someone could modify my soul enough to make me a person. Interesting idea, the beautiful older woman admits. But you'd have to ask someone else about that. I wouldn't know what it's like. She flies off, leaving me bored and alone. My new collar is still on, so I can't even do any magic. Oh, well. It was nice knowing Vita while it lasted.